Place your right hand over the heart and repeat after me.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There was no action taken in closed session tonight. We'll move on to item 10, which is our special recognition. And our first one is a recognition of the Temple City Unified School District's Golden Apple recipient, Nanette Fish. And are you going to? Okay. I think one of the things that makes our district so special is that we have the best volunteers in this community. We have people that volunteer long after their children have graduated from school. And Nan is a perfect example of that. Her youngest is sitting over there, and she graduated over 10 years ago. And Nan still, you'll find her at the football snack bar, washing. She's our chief dishwasher. She helps out at the high school with interviews. Anytime the district needs something, she's willing to step up and do it. And as many of you know, she's our mayor for another week. And she has really been instrumental in leading the city in developing a collaborative relationship with the school district. Last week, the ceremony was held at the Santa Anita Golf Course, and Nan was recognized. But tonight, we want to present her with her golden apple. Wow. Oh, it's really heavy too, so Nan, please come up.
And I just wanted to say, Donna is also one of those people that continues to volunteer, even though her kids are long gone. So it's a pleasure.
It's fun.
Thank you. Yes, it is. It's a pleasure and honor to always volunteer. I get to meet lots of wonderful people. And of course, I live in the city. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this. So thank you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm sure very much.
And my daughter's very excited because she says now she was the mayor and the school board president. That's crazy, huh?
Be careful, that apple is not attached.
I know, I noticed that. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Okay, good. Just take a look, make sure. Perfect, thank you.
All right, thank you again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, next up we have another fun one. We have our 2020 Camellia Festival Royal Court, and I see the general chairperson, Mike Winterkorn, standing there in the back. So Mike, you want to come on up?
Sure.
I believe the microphone's on.
I think I talk loud enough, but just in case. Well, I'm Mike Winterkorn. I'm the general chair of this year's Camellia Festival, our 76th annual, which just happened this last weekend. Hope you all could attend and be a part of the parade and all that. So thank you for inviting us today. The mission of the Camellia Festival is to promote the desire in every child to participate in the affairs of the community. It is through appearances like today's that we are able to promote our local community organization. I would like to start by introducing our Camellia Royal Court and banner carriers for 2020. Our banner carriers, Mason Cardenas and Hayden Wong. Banner carriers, Mitchell Tsai and Violet Wen. Our Royal Court, Prince Kendrick Sue and Princess Kaylin Yang. Prince Max Manthai and Princess Kelsey Jurek. And our King Colin Catalan and Queen Abigail Jane McKeon. These children were selected from a group of nearly 50 Temple City first graders who took part in our annual play day in January. They were judged in how they get along with others and following directions. In addition, each child had a chance to answer questions using a microphone. Part of their royal duties includes opening our carnival, leading our community festival parade, and making appearances such as this today. So do you guys have any questions for the kids?
I do. Turn around.
Turn around, guys.
Hi, how are you guys? Good. I just wanted to know, what was your favorite part of being on the boat?
Do you want to start at one end?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who wants to answer? Come on, Mitchell.
Mitchell, would you start? What was your favorite part?
Being
Being picked? Okay. Violetta? You too? Okay. Going on the float? I bet, that was really fun, huh?
My favorite part of the royal cart that we got to go on the free shaw festival.
Okay.
My favorite part of the royal cart is having fun. My part of the royal court is having ice cream show. My favorite part is the ice cream soda. My favorite part is having fun.
Well, you guys did a great job on Saturday. Thank you so much.
Yes.
They're a great group.
Did anybody else have a question? Okay, well, we have some gifts for you. Hold on just a second.
Is that another favorite part, getting?
Thank
Isn't that fun?
you.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Go ahead and turn around.
What do you guys say?
Board, want to come up here and get a picture? Thank you for representing Temple City.
We're on the.
Okay, everybody, scoot down a little bit. Pay attention. Better? Look at Mr. Champion.
Look at the camera.
Very much. Hey, wait, what do we say, everybody?
Thank you.
Very nice. Who goes out first? Hey, you forgot your other half.
Attached to the hip. And I'd also like to introduce Don Tarrant, our festival director, who just took them out. Jerry Jambazian, who's our parade program and photographer. And of course, Donna Giorgino, who's our own entertainment and parade chairman. And I would like to thank our parents for bringing them to all these events all the time and getting here on time. And I'd also like to thank you guys for letting us use your parking lot. Thank you.
You're welcome, Mike. Thank you. You did a great job. And in case you don't know, Mike is a graduate of Temple City High School, so
Yeah, 40 years ago.
40, huh?
Reaching myself now.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for all your good work.
Okay, next up is public public comment on agendized and non-agendized items, and I have one request. It's from Albert Ramirez. Hi.
Good evening, everyone. First off, I just want to thank you all for your decision at the last meeting. It definitely means a lot to me. It means a lot to our board, and it means a lot to the region. This spring program, I don't know if I touched on this last time, but it's something that I started a year ago that didn't exist. So primarily in AYSO and for the youth, the fall season is when they play soccer. And there are a lot of children that want to continue playing throughout the year or into the spring. Not everybody, I love baseball and I played Little League my whole life, but I know not every kid plays baseball or softball and they're looking for other things to do or they want to keep playing soccer. In the spring in AYSO, it's primarily where the all-stars, the stronger players stay together and they play tournaments and they travel. I've coached teams like that. But what I wanted to do was create an opportunity for everybody to play. So we started the spring season, and these are the games that we're going to be having at Oak starting in March. And this is for everybody to play. So it's a new opportunity. It doesn't matter the skill level of the child. They can all register and play. Well, the registration's done now. The teams are practicing. But it's just a great opportunity for them to play, for those that want to keep playing. In the past, it was pretty much just the children that made the all-star team that played at this time of year. So thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. I do have copies of our annual budget. The national office requires me to create this budget every year, and it has a line item for all the expenses. It starts off with the cost of per player for last year's registration, which was $125. And it breaks down an estimate of where everything goes. And it factors in all of the expenditures. So I'll leave these copies with you, and just want to say thanks again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Albert, for everything you do for the young people in our community.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to speak tonight? All right, then we'll move on to our district updates. Business services, Mary Ann Sorrell.
Good evening. Just a quick update tonight, and this is about the Measure S bond. As you will recall, the last two projects that are on the docket are Cloverly and La Rosa, and we're nearly finished. At Cloverly, the punch list has been completed. The punch list is the small items that we find when we go and walk the job site. It could be, painting. It could be a light socket, a cover missing, something like that. So we're finished with that. The warranty items have been provided by the contractor, and Tcusd is reviewing and anticipating a delivery on the 28th in a couple of days. At La Rosa, Building A has been occupied. That's where administration is. Building B, all the classrooms have been occupied. Building F is the cafeteria, and the school has now occupied the cafeteria. That's been a little bit late. We're about 2 weeks behind schedule. And other than that, we're almost wrapped up. Thank you very much.
Great. Educational services, Joshua Porter.
Thanks. Ed Services and Student Services have finalized the details of the March 16th Professional Development Day. The schedule for the day has been, we've been pretty well ironed out. Right now we're working on the plans for the audiovisual setup at the high school and sign in to accommodate a whole staff setting. Ed Services also attended the last of the school visits through the Lakewood Dual Immersion Institute. The school visited, this last time was the Verdugo Woodlands Elementary in Glendale. They have a well-established dual immersion program with the language model is based on 50-50 Japanese, meaning that it's half the instruction is in Japanese and the other half is in English. So additional schools and districts plan to be visited next year with the second part of the network as a continuation to the study. Ed Services staff met with representatives from Pearson, from my perspective, to share out results from the fall pilot. Additionally, Ed Services reached out to McGraw-Hill on behalf of the high school as they expressed an interest and desire to pilot. Study sync with a larger group after receiving the initial training along with the middle school. So McGraw-Hill has agreed to continue the initial pilot with our 3 teachers at the high school and extending it to 8 more teachers next year due to their interest. Ed Services and IT worked on cleaning up our online credentials for the electronic score report for the California Assessment Student Performance in English Language Proficiency Assessment for California Assessments. This was an important update for us as it's the primary data source for us to get the information out to students because we have an obligation to get out to them 30 days prior to the end of after receiving it. And then lastly, Ed Services joined 3 teachers, one from elementary, one from intermediate, one from high school at the Science Curriculum Materials Fair and attended the Instructional Materials Evaluation Toolkit training. The purpose of this training is to help our teams prepare for the possibility of an upcoming science adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. Personnel Services, Monica Makovich.
Just a quick update, classified study for CSEA 105 and 823. We will have the new updated job descriptions where they will go through a revision process by the advisory committee and the board and the executive cabinet. So we're looking forward to receiving those job descriptions in the next few weeks. LCAT survey is done. I appreciate all the input that the parent groups, staff groups, and student groups made to the survey. The survey will be deployed later next week or early the following week.
We will have it translated in Spanish and Mandarin for all families, parents, and students. So we will have it posted on the websites, and it will be a pop-up on our own district website. So we are looking forward to many people participating in that. We had over 3,000 participants last year, so I would like to meet or exceed that this year. CSE negotiations 105 and 823, I just want to thank all the negotiating teams. We are almost coming to a close, but I do appreciate everybody's hard work and efforts in that process. Last but not least, Maria Gardner and I are set to go to our second session of the Merit Academy on Saturday to better serve the Personnel Commission and get our new updated laws and practices.
Great, thank you. Next up is our bargaining units. TCEA, Ellen.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for the cookies last week and the flan, I guess it was 2 weeks ago. Board members, the muffins, it's delicious, thank you. I think it shows that I indulged a little bit more than I should have, but we really appreciate that, thank you. I don't know that I'll be able to make it at 5 o'clock tomorrow, so I thought I'd speak before the evaluation session, just in case I don't make it here. I wanted to speak in support of Dr. Fricker, and I wanted to give some examples why. So on Monday, we had a kindergarten meeting where Dr. Fricker asked all the kindergarten teachers to come and attend to discuss going to an extended day or a full day program. And that did not need to happen. Dr. Fricker knows that she can have full day or extended day kindergarten if she wants it, and all she has to do is put on a board agenda, present something to you, and it would probably pass. But instead she decided to meet with teachers and build a relationship and ask for consensus, which she got. She did get that. And I think it was an important step and a good step, so I appreciate that. We've been asked to attend 3 budget advisory sessions where she'll be collaborating with the unions. One thing we're grateful for is that she'll be listening to our background knowledge. She'll be listening to our issues, our concerns, and she's going to allow us to collaborate. And so we're grateful to that. We have a lot to share. And so not only do I feel that we are asked to share, but she listens, and that's important. I'm also pleased that our school sites are now using, in the district office, Excel spreadsheets. She's done a lot of work in this area where expenses can be tracked. And it's very important that these expenses are tracked because once we know what we're spending money on, we know we can make really informed financial decisions. And that can't be made, those can't be made. They've never been able to be made that way. So that's greatly appreciated. We also know we're going to be able to sneak a peek at those spreadsheets from time to time, I've been promised. So that's nice. What else do I have here? We've asked for a few years now for an early retirement package for our teachers. And I know that we're currently in the investigation stage for that, and I don't know how it's going to turn out. But we're just pleased that somebody is at least starting that process for us. It's important. We're getting tired, myself included. So we're really pleased with the direction that the superintendent has taken us in these last few years, year and a half. And we know we have a lot more work to do. And we are hoping that we'll get to continue to have Dr. Fricker lead us and continue some of that work. So we're in full support of Dr. Fricker continuing our district. So we really appreciate you taking this information into your evaluation session. So thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. CSEA, I believe Robin left, so she wasn't feeling well. CSEA 823, Art? Nothing? Okay, we'll move on to student board member comments. Samuel?
Good evening, everyone. It's been an eventful couple of weeks since last board meeting, but first of all, our theme for the upcoming Sadie Dance on March 20th will be Be My Hero, inspired by the Disney movie Wreck-It Ralph. Last weekend, the high school ASB helped make the float for the Camellia Court, and it was nice to see all the little kids dressed up for the parade. We also held a game booth at the Camellia Festival, which was quite successful. ASB elections are finally over, and the results for next year's elected members have been released. This week we started the Pennies for Patients campaign in order to support the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Today we had our Oak Avenue and High School ASB exchange, and we were able to learn how Oak ASB functions while teaching them how we run our ASB. Lastly, I just wanted to say that everyone should go to the Newsies musical. That's it for today.
Okay, thank you, Samuel. Next is board member comments, and we'll start with Ken.
Thank you. I attended the baseball opening on Saturday the 15th at 10 o'clock, 10:30, and where we dedicated the field, and it was a nice field. But one of the things is when I was walking back, I looked at the girls softball, and they didn't have adequate seats because a lot of people, probably half the people, had bathroom seats.
Ken, they had moved some of the bleachers over to the baseball field just for the day in anticipation of big crowds. So those bleachers, I assume, have been moved back now. So they have.
It's still
Yeah.
It's still what?
Yeah, we approved more bleachers for girls.
I know, but the thing is, there was a lot of people at the fence at the outfield, looking at the softball diamond that's by the pool, that were sitting in their own seats. So it's a dilemma to be resolved someday. And I look forward to the 27th, tomorrow, and we're going to do the superintendent's evaluation. And she gets pick on to it, and most of it was closed. Also, I see we have something on the 27th, which is Friday. The Temple City National Little League team. And on March 6th, we have something at Longton. We have at the library, we have a Vice Day. And that's about it.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go next. I wanted to first announce that, Ellen alluded to it, we have a special board meeting tomorrow afternoon at 5 o'clock. It is a closed session superintendent evaluation. Normally even though the Brown Act only requires 24 hours notice, we like to give 72 hours notice, but we came up a little short this time because of our busy schedules, and also we're having some issues with finding a location to have it. So it is going to be taking place in one of the conference rooms over here. The public is welcome to come and give input, and then we'll be going into closed session upstairs. Also on Saturday, we have another board meeting, special board meeting. This one, the agenda will be posted tomorrow morning. We're going to be listening to some presentations from companies that do facility master plans, and we may have something else on the agenda also. That will be an open session meeting. Again, it'll be in the conference room, so it will be a little cozy, but we will have room for the public there. So if anybody would like to come and watch or give input, you're welcome to come. I attended the Temple City High School stadium dedication, and I just wanted to thank everybody who was involved in that. It was very nice. Staff, the players, the students, the parents, the Ramrodders, people in the community. It was a very nice event honoring one of our previous teachers at Temple City High School. I attended the Golden Apple Breakfast where Nan was honored along with representatives from other school districts. I attended the community forum last week where we were doing some strategic planning with the community. I attended Founders Day last week. TA did a wonderful job with that. I like how you guys do the theme with the musical, and so that was really fun. On Friday, I attended a meeting with the Wadland County officials. The city has an agreement with this relationship. They formed an agreement with this county in Taiwan, and they came here to visit us. And they went to Temple City High School, and Temple City High School did a wonderful job of entertaining them and giving them a tour. They were so impressed with our students. Samuel, you'll have to go back and report what a great job ASB Link crew did. We had the orchestra performing, we had choreo performing, we had the road show from Newsies performing, and they were very impressed with Temple City High School. So thank you to everyone who was involved in that. Spent all weekend at the Camellia Festival. It was a great way for our schools to be showcased in the parade, in entertainment, at working booths, selling food, doing all kinds of things. I did want to acknowledge Oak Avenue, their band, auxiliaries, drill team, and high music all won sweepstakes. So congratulations to Oak. I also wanted to acknowledge TCEA. I believe this is the second year now, Ellen, that TCEA has had a booth at the Camellia Festival, and they give away free books to children. It's just such a nice thing to do, and such a good way to build goodwill in the community. So thank you, Ellen, for doing that. I attended the State of the City last night, and Nan gave a really nice presentation. Let's see, on March 14th, our State Senator Susan Rubio is doing a conference for young women, grades 7 through 12. It's at Rosemead High School. It's free, so hopefully we can get the word out to the girls in our district. They're going to have lunch, and they get a goodie bag, and they're going to have speakers, and it should be a real nice day. Along with Samuel, I want to remind everybody to buy their tickets to the musical. It's going to be great. Let's see,
15th of March, right?
The musical, 13th, 14th, and 15th, 3 days. I wanted to acknowledge the 4 Odyssey of the Mind teams who competed, I believe it was this past weekend, and are advancing to state. I want to acknowledge Temple City High School Robotics. They had a competition over the weekend. They got the Think Award, Inspire Award, and they're advancing to the finals. I also want to acknowledge the Temple City High School Science Olympiad. They got 2nd place out of 51 teams in the LA County regional competition. So that's really great. Our drumline was in a competition and placed 1st out of 27 teams, and from what I understand, they were 1st by several points, so they're really outstanding. If you get a chance to go see them, please do. And finally, last but not least, I want to congratulate all of us because Nietzsche rated the Temple City Unified School District the 20th best school district in the state. They also said we have the 15th best teachers in the state of California, and we are the 7th safest district in the state of California. So good job, everybody. Thank you. All right, next we will move on to Mike.
Thank you, Donna. Good evening. Again, I want to reiterate and echo what Donna and Ken said. Congratulations to the Netfish Golden Apple recipient, well deserved. Also, I attended the Golden Apple for 2 districts, San Marino and Temple City. So that was a good use of concurrent time. Also, congratulations to Dennis Marquardt, dedication of the stadium after his name, very well deserved. Well earned over many years of service as a coach and teacher at our high school. I attended the PTA Honor Services Award, and congratulations to all the awardees. Community Festival, Dawn Tarrant and Mike Wintercorn. Wow, a lot of work goes in, especially, looking at the kids tonight. They're so articulate, so poised, so confident, and they're only first graders. That is just phenomenal. And their futures are bright. Our futures are bright because they're all students. Most of them are all students. Also, kudos to Dr. Fricker for the excellent communication. I'm pretty sure our principals, our teachers, our district office staff are hit with questions about this coronavirus pandemic. CDC has provided, constant monitoring and updates. And I'm pretty sure our parents are kind of anxious and nervous. And the communication that's gone out is just the surface, the tip of the iceberg. In terms of planning, I'm sure the internal plans and the contingency plans are all there. I know we talked about the safety plans, but I know that there's a lot of logistics that goes behind this. And I want to give you kudos for handling and allaying the worries of our community. Also, Monday is Dr. Seuss's birthday. I don't know if we're going to wear crazy socks, but it's a time to celebrate for our kids. And Tuesday is Super Tuesday. If you have registered to vote, please do. If you haven't registered to vote, I don't think it's too late, but it is important that we do so. Tuesday is election day. Thank you very much.
And I'll just mention, this is going to be a voting center here, so if anyone needs to vote, they can come here to the district office. Yes, Ken?
Yes, I'd just like to mention, I forgot, Monday, I had the honor of going to the Tcusd Learning Center, I think most of the board with, and we saw the lost person. I talked to the lost person. And so the school, the Tcusd Learning Center will have lost certification, I hope, for all 3 schools. And I think you attended, didn't you?
No, I don't even know about it.
Well, it was Monday.
Okay, great. Thank you for representing us. Okay, next is Matt.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of new things to add. I participated and attended most of the events that others have discussed, but I don't want to let it go without making a few comments. The first one I attended was the Dennis Marquardt Stadium dedication on the 15th, and I wanted to give kudos in particular to Jack Taylor, who's kind of become the team dad, and he's really the one who orchestrated most of that and made it happen at 1 o'clock, working with a very nice event. Like Donna and Superintendent and Mike, I also attended the AXA Golden Apple Award breakfast this past Wednesday, and was pleased to be there with Nan and her daughter, who snuck out, and seeing them get see Nan particularly get the recognition with the Golden Apple. I also attended the PTA Founders Day dinner last Thursday evening. Saw lots of people from the community get either Golden Oak Award or an Honorary Service Award or Continuing Service Awards or Honorable Mention or whatever the one's called. But it's nice to see that PTA recognize all the people who put in so much time and effort and are basically volunteering. So thank you for doing that. I had a chance to participate in the Wildland delegation visit this past Friday as well. It was a very nice group of people, very excited, enthusiastic, had a lot to share with us as well as what we had to share with them. We got a chance to see their students perform actually out in, down the street here in the corner of Rosemead and Las Tunas at a luncheon that we held with them. Anyway, it's nice to see them get up there and dance and the enthusiasm and whatnot that they had. So I think part of the tradition of Temple City and the performing arts we do fits well with what they are interested in doing as well. Came by every day this past weekend to the Camellia Festival and Parade for one event or another. I was very thrilled to see that Oak Avenue took all the sweepstakes for the categories that they entered in. That was a neat thing. I haven't talked to my son, and he was standing with his group of kids in the band when they were announcing the winners, and they announced third, second, and first, and they were shocked when they found out they didn't get one of those awards. And then they started announcing the sweepstakes, and they were thrilled. So that was kind of a neat thing. And my wife also asked me to make an honorable mention to the Temple City High School American Cancer Society Club, who built the float for the parade and received the Chairman's Award. So good congratulations to them. Let's see. I'll skip that part. I think I covered it. State of the Union, State of the City, excuse me. Last night was a very nice event. Nana did a great job, and it was kind of a festive thing where they had some refreshments ahead of time, and lots of people turned out, so that was great as well. I am looking forward to attending the TC in Temple City National Little League opening ceremonies on Friday, and looking forward to that. It will bring back a lot of memories from when my kids participated there. And then I'm looking forward to attending Newsies too, the weekend of the 13th, 14th, and 15th. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Last but not least,
Hi, everybody. I want to start off by congratulating all the winter sports teams and their coaches for all their hard work and such great results. I also attended the baseball field dedication. It was a very heartfelt event and a wonderful honor for Mr. Marquardt. I was really touched by all the speakers, in particular the words of his son. I want to thank everyone involved in that. Jack Taylor did a great job, baseball boosters, the high school, and whoever else was involved in that event. And I'm also wanting to wish the Temple City High School baseball and girls softball team best of luck in their season. I attended the Camellia Parade and Festival, and thankfully we escaped the rain. It wasn't too bad. I was very impressed with the floats. They're getting really fancy from when my kids were in elementary school. And I think it's just a wonderful showing of the heart of our community. So kudos to all the community members who work to make the parade and the festival a success. I know it's hard work, but it's rewarding work, so great. Absolutely, congratulations to Oak for winning the many awards in their the competition for band and auxiliaries. I attended Founders Day, and I want to congratulate all the honorees and all those volunteers that made that event so nice. And last, I attended the community feedback session that was on February 19th. Kudos to the team here because the agenda was really great. It was a great use of a good information session, a good agenda, and some important things were shared there. I was a little disappointed. I mean, some of the things we talked about, some meaningful dialogue was happening around feedback, mission, values, goals, and preferences where bond dollars go. And I was a little disappointed that only, if you exclude me, only 3 community members were there. So, you know, I feel like, you know, the board we need to hear your voice. We need to understand what the community voice is on topics. And, you know, if you weren't able to attend, if there is a way that you want to give feedback on those topics, I would, you know, most definitely please reach out. Did you want to?
I'm so sorry, just to add, the LCAP survey does have a section on that.
So it will give people one last time to put some feedback in there on those things that we talked about.
Awesome, because we really do need the feedback. And also, you know, if you feel like there's a way in which you prefer to be communicated to so you get the information that you need, let the team know what's the best method for communication on things like this. Like if you didn't know that February 19th there was this session, you know, tell us ways that we can do that, because we need to find a way for us to get messages out to our community, and we need to hear from the community. So please don't hesitate. Please let us know what's going on and the way to, for us to communicate with you. We really appreciate it. That's it.
Thank you. Next is our superintendent's comments.
Well, I want to thank you all. There were several board members who did show up for the parent forum, and there was really good conversation, especially with the prioritization that's going to be coming up with regard to facility and facility projects. All of those ideas and topics and priority rankings that we have gathered from the 2 community forums that we have had this year, plus the information that is going to be coming back from every single school site staff meetings and their input. All of that will be coming back to the board, and then we will finally summarize the mission, vision, the goal setting, and then the board will take action later on this spring on those items. We will also be bringing back the prioritization of those suggested facility projects, and then we will be discussing all of those in open session in a spring meeting as well. So all of that is to come. So thank you all for coming. I did attend Founders Day. I just want to thank you, Mary, for putting on an incredible Founders Day. And it's just a wonderful evening where literally the community comes out and they celebrate and they take time to just be in community with each other and celebrate all of the volunteerism and the hard work and effort that goes into, running the school district and running the parent organization. Which is no small task, but it seems effortless, I just have to say. It does, so thank you so much for that. We had a great, great time. The baseball dedication to Mr. Marquardt was probably one of the most sentimental and highlighted points of the year. The comments by his son and the dedication that he had through his whole life, he and his wife Claire, to Temple City, to baseball, to the students who have now grown up and are now pillars of our community too. It was really nice to hear their voice and the impact that one person can have on so many people. I think the hallmark of this district is those individuals who go above and beyond their job duties and roles and responsibilities, and they really their heart's in the right place, and they literally affect and have an impact on generations. So thank you to the Marquardt family. And then I just wanted to thank the business office and the Board of Education for taking action and making sure that happened, and that dedication could happen while we still have Mr. Marquardt with us. I want to congratulate Nanette Fish on receiving not only the Golden Apple, but also having the State of the City address the other night. Both events were wonderful, and again, they're highlighting just a person who's been a pillar of our community and have volunteered and given so much, not only to the city aspect, but also to the district. And then I do want to thank Ellen for your leadership in the kinder meeting as well. I think it's really important when we have issues or concerns or topics that we need to discuss as a district, that we all do that together. And it was really nice to sit with the kinder teachers. It was lovely to go into their classrooms and spend 30 minutes with each one of them and really get the sense and the flavor of what they do in an everyday. And I hope they felt that we really do appreciate the job that they do. But, in going forward, I think that the meetings that we are going to schedule to discuss schedules and or the possibilities that lay ahead, I do believe that we will do that in a collaborative way that makes sense for everyone and that their voices will be heard. So that is purely my intent in that. So I look forward to your ongoing leadership, and I appreciate your words. And then finally, the visit with the Welland delegation and the Taiwanese students who came over and not only performed for us, but performed in the Camellia Parade. They were just amazing children who we were delighted to have on the receiving end of the visit. But what was most amazing was the way that our high school students really embraced and interacted. And by the time they went on this tiny tour of the campus and came back, they were already exchanging Instagram and messaging. And, I'm like, they're going to be lifelong friends, from even though they're on opposite sides of the world. And I think that is also the extension of family, and that was mentioned many times during the visit, that once you become a part of the Temple City family, you just remain a part of the Temple City family. So that was really touching to see, and it was a great bridge between the city and the district, and we hope for many more of those types of things. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Next is written communications. I don't have any. Does anyone else? Okay, then we'll move on to discussion information items. The first one is business services. Item 18 is a parcel tax presentation. And Mary Ann's going to do a little introduction of our speaker.
I'd like to thank Steve Gall for coming tonight to present to the board. He's from California Financial Services, and they're a great support to us with all bond-related issues.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good evening, Superintendent, Cabinet, and Board. Before I get started, just a little bit of the background. Staff had requested that I come and share some information with the Board regarding parcel tax measures. We'll get into the details a little bit more in the presentation, but in general, throughout the state of California, school districts are finding it more and more difficult to meet the needs of their community, their students, with the formula of funding that the state is providing. Some of those challenges, the challenges range for different districts. Some districts battle housing affordability for school teachers. We work with many school districts in the as an example, in the Bay Area, where they're paying $1 million, $2 million, $3 million for a 2-bedroom condominium, and they're battling how do we continue to attract quality teachers in the community, to be part of the community. Other school districts struggle with providing the types of services to their community, be it enhancements to existing STEM programs, or even some districts battling the need to provide more interventions for their students. So we'll go over a little bit of how a parcel tax works and what it's about in the process. This is really just an information item for you to kind of think about. If you have any questions this evening, please let me know. Or also, if you have questions that arise after this meeting, or we share them with Mary Ann, she can reach back out to us and provide you some feedback on it. So on this first slide here, I talked a little bit about it, but what types of program objectives do parcel taxes allow school districts to achieve? Most school districts, when they're looking at a parcel tax measure, are looking to generate additional funds to provide either the expansion of certain programs, things like enhanced music and performing arts programs, foreign language programs, career technical programs, science expansion or athletic programs. Also, some districts throughout the state are looking to achieve goals associated with class size reduction, or, like I said before, the expansion of intervention programs. There are a few districts, and I highlight this at the bottom, that actually do use parcel tax measures as a means to increase the salaries for teachers. However, the reason I highlight it here is, as we get into the presentation a little bit more, there's really not that many school districts statewide that do that. And the reason being is oftentimes, in order to maintain a parcel tax program, you have to ask for future voter approval, which means that most parcel tax don't last forever. If you use it to increase teacher salaries, now you're using a potentially temporary revenue source to fund something that's a permanent obligation. So it's been done, it's an eligible use, but it's not used nearly as much as simply to expand or provide additional services and programs to school children. So a little bit about parcel tax measures. What a parcel tax is the voters approve a tax and a term by which the tax would be levied on their property for the purposes of supporting those types of programs. So it's operational funding. State law requires that parcel tax are uniformly applied to each parcel within the district, meaning you cannot structure a parcel tax that would tax a commercial property at a higher rate than a residential property, or a residential property in the southwest corner of your district different than a residential property in your northeast corner of the district. It has to be uniform. Under that uniformity, though, there are different structures that you can use to apply the tax. Most parcel taxes are a simple per parcel charge. It's $100 per year per parcel. It doesn't matter if it's a shopping mall, that could be the underlying value of the property could be $100 million, or a small single-family home with an underlying value of $300,000 or $400,000. They would receive the same tax. Alternatively, you could use something like improved square footage, which means that a larger home or a larger building would have a slightly higher tax, or it could be a significantly higher tax than one with a smaller square footage. But again, if you do a parcel tax with one of these methodologies, it has to be applied equally to each use. So as an example, a shoe store that is 2,800 square feet, if you had an applied square footage tax, that person would be paying the same tax for their shoe store, that you would be paying on your 2,800 square foot home. That's the uniformity test. So there could be separate taxes, person A is paying the tax to person B, but it has to be applied uniformly throughout the district. The tax can either stay the same each year, or through the approval process, the tax could be approved to increase annually, either by a fixed rate, the tax will be X and it'll increase by 2% or 3% a year, or by some construction cost index, like the consumer price index or some other fixed amount. So you could do that either way, as long as it was approved during the parcel tax measure to move or increase over time. The term of the tax, when you approve the tax and you're asking the voters for approval, they do need to set a term. However, it's not required that the term have any limit. So as an example, you could have a term as short as 1 year. The ballot measure could be approve a tax, X amount of dollars per parcel to do these things for 1 year. And then you'd have to go back to the voters again after that year and say, hey, would you approve it again and again and again? Or you could have a tax that's indefinite. And technically what it says is it says it'll just continue to run until the district decides not to levy it. In application, most of these taxes have a term between 5 and 8 years. 5 years becomes somewhat kind of the minimum for public school districts. As you know, when you approve your budget, you have to look 3 years out into the future. So you can see that a tax that's much shorter than 5 years becomes difficult to just simply plan for, even if you're using it for what would otherwise be called, be seen as enhancements to your programs. It's hard to manage the enhancement to a program on a year-to-year basis. You need a little bit of a runway. 8 years seems to be the outside of when voters decide in their mind anything greater than 8 years might as well just be forever. And that's kind of ferrets out when you look at the approval rates. Parcel taxes, unlike general obligation bond taxes, you can include at your discretion exemptions. Exemptions for senior citizen homeowners, so homeowners with age 65 or over, as well as low-income homeowners with disabilities. Generally speaking, those that would be eligible to receive SSI or SSBI support. So you don't have to, within a parcel tax measure, you don't have to exempt these properties. However, you do have the ability under law. So the uniformity test is applied to each and every parcel, with the exception of these two allowable exceptions. Okay. So how many parcel tax measures have been pursued in the state, and how easy are they, or how receptive is the voter within the state? Parcel tax measures must be approved by voters by a 2/3 margin. So unlike the district's most recent GeoBond Measure S, which had an approval threshold of 55% plus 1 vote, parcel taxes are a 2/3 measure. So you have to get a 2/3 vote or more. I went back to June of 2016 and discovered that 65 parcel tax measures had been attempted throughout the state by K-14 school districts. And you can see here, of those 65 parcel tax measures, 53 of them passed with greater than 2/3. So that's 82%, with 12 failing, so 18%. Understanding that there's really two predominant methodologies, I am also showing you here how does the approval rating for a per parcel tax differ, if any, from the per square footage tax. You can see here that the per parcel taxes are, first of all, the majority of parcel taxes throughout the state are per parcel taxes, and they pass with a slightly higher percentage passage rate than a per square foot tax. Passage rates are it's a case by case basis, but this kind of gives you an idea that the predominant methodology is a per parcel structure. In the next slide, in the county of Los Angeles, there's been significantly less parcel tax measures. A total of 7 K-14 school district parcel tax measures have been attempted in the county since June of 2016, with 4 being approved, which is a 57% approval rate. I put here on the right-hand side a table that shows each of the 7 measures, and the ones highlighted in green are are the past parcel taxes. The majority of these parcel tax attempts were what we would call new taxes, so taxes that this was the first time the voters had seen the opportunity to provide it for a parcel tax, with the exception of Little Lake School District, which passed at $48 per parcel. It's a tax that's been on the books since it started, since you could have a parcel tax, as well as the reauthorization of one of the San Marino Unified School District's tax for a total of $366. Because San Marino is so close, I also provide you a little bit of additional information here. San Marino actually has 2 active parcel tax measures that run. They come up for vote in different years, so they're staggered. And you can see here that the last parcel tax, remember you need a 66.6 plus 1% of the vote, plus 1 vote. San Marino received 69.22% approval on their last measure, which was the Measure R, and they have the 2 active, so they in total with the 2, they generate about $5.6 million annually, which is about $1,800, $1,900 per student.
Question on this page.
Yes.
Because this is 2016 to November 2019, because I'm aware that like Arcadia and South Pass also have parcel taxes, but maybe they were approved before 2016?
Correct. Yeah, what I try to do is create, show you information that gave you kind of an idea of what the current condition was, what kind of more or less current condition was. So thinking of 2016. But yeah, if you go back further, then you start to pick up additional parcel taxes that are in there. Next slide. So, in addition to looking at the approval rates statewide as well as in your community since 16, I also did a very rudimentary preliminary summary of what the capacity of your school district would be to generate operational funds through parcel tax. There's no, this is not high math, it's a fairly simple calculation. So what you see here in the large table on the bottom is just a listing of all the parcels within your school district. Within that listing of parcels, there's a line item for government, social, and institutional parcels here, and that's 94. So what we do in order to calculate the total parcels or adjusted parcels that we can apply a parcel tax to is we take the total amount, which is 9,599 total parcels within the district. We subtract those 94 governmental parcels. Then we also have subtracted 702 parcels as just an estimate of a potential senior citizen exemption result. And that's just based on 10% of the total single-family detached parcels within your units within your community. Just really kind of gassed. That gives you a net of 8,803 adjusted parcels, and then on the right-hand side, what I've done is I've just applied different per parcel tax rates, looking at the surrounding districts in the county of Los Angeles, less the San Marino tax, which is fairly high relative to statewide, and gave you an idea of what the parcel tax would generate, both in total and then on a per pupil basis at $125, $175, and $225. If the parcel tax slightly higher, and it goes higher, lower, it goes lower. So you can see here that at $225, the district would be able to generate approximately $2 million a year in supplemental funding, which is about $351 per student. Any questions about that? All right. So the next slide, this is a little bit about process. So if the board decided that a parcel tax was something that you wanted to explore further, what is the process of exploring that? The initial stage of the parcel tax is exploration, is really creating the capacity analysis. The capacity, then going to the community with the survey, testing to see if the community would support the idea, both on the money side as well as on the program side, and then going through the process of trying to gain agreement or come to some sort of agreement with the community before ultimately putting it on the ballot. Parcel taxes, unlike your Prop 39 geo bond tax, can be put on the ballot on any Tuesday. You know, the cost associated with putting it on the ballot varies. If it's a election where a lot of other people have things on the ballot, then it's less expensive, but you can put it on any Tuesday. And you'll see throughout the state that if you look at the election dates, sometimes they end up on different dates for different reasons. If you go to the next slide. So the first step is to do a funding needs analysis, and this is very similar to what we do with geo bonds. What you're doing here is you're looking at what the priority needs of the district are. What are the targets? What are the things that the district is looking to generate dollars for? Getting input from the internal stakeholders and determining what the corresponding parcel tax would be to support those things. So if you had, if a district needed program A, and program A would range between, you know, 700,000 and 1.2 million, then the parcel tax would have to generate between those two targets. The parcel tax that generated 200,000 right, as an example. And going through that process to not only really understand what you would need the money for, but then also doing the sanity check to make sure that whatever parcel tax you would be asking the community about would actually achieve the goal. On the second phase, you would then go and broaden that group, broaden the input group from your internal stakeholders and maybe folks at the different school sites to the community at large through a tool called a community survey. So in the community survey, you simply say, here are the things we'd like to do, and here's what we think it would cost. And you ask a sample of the community, would they be in support of that? Would they be in support of A, the program, B, the funding mechanism, and C, the combination of the program and funding mechanism? So the parcel tax survey not only allowed you to get an idea if the community is aligned with you financially, they vote for a tax, but also are they aligned with the rest of the stakeholders of the district that STEM, expansion of the STEM program or expansion of the athletic program, or whatever the program is it something that the community at large supports? And then the last part before you put it on the bond, the ballot, is simply to go out to the community and share your vision for the parcel tax measure with you. So this is an important part of anytime we're asking the community. Many, if not all, almost all of the community, they don't come to our meetings, they don't come to the LCAP listening groups, they just don't, they're not exposed to that. So this stage of the process is when you communicate to the community that you'd like to do these things, and here's why they're important, and here's how it goes. Then the final stage is simply putting it on the ballot and asking the community to vote for it. Any questions?
Do the seniors get to vote if they're exempt?
Yes. So they don't get to,
They don't get charged the parcel tax.
So how senior exemption would work is prior to when you're creating the language for the parcel tax measure, in that language you would either include senior exemption for senior homeowners or you would exclude it. So at that point you make the decision if you're going to allow for senior exemptions or not. The inclusion or exclusion of senior exemptions does not affect the ability of somebody who may in the future qualify for a senior exemption from voting on the tax measure. So if you had a tax measure, you said we are going to exempt folks 65 years or older who own a home, that doesn't mean that everybody who's 65 in your community who owns a home will go to the ballot box and the measure won't be on it. So it doesn't change who votes for it, it changes potentially the downstream effects of who actually gets charged.
So 66 or 67 or above the 65, can you exempt them? Do those people get to vote or not?
Yes, correct. Yeah, 65. So you would be exempting senior citizens, so 65 plus years of age, who own homes within the district. So own homes, and so that would apply all the way up from 65 to however long. Yeah.
Steve, when the priorities are identified and communicated to the community, and say the community passes the parcel tax with above the 2/3 mark, the funds that come in from the parcel tax, would that be restricted funds?
So, it depends how the measure is written. So in the community survey process, one of the things that we would test is the sensitivity of the voter to vote yes or no on a parcel tax based on self-imposed restrictions. So things that we've actually put in the measure. So when we went to the voter with the measure, any type of required restrictions would be written into the measure. All other restrictions, those that aren't written into the measure but are simply political pledges, would be at the discretion of future boards to change. So you could do a parcel tax if there was community support that says, we want to raise this money for district costs. Period. That would be the entire measure. What generally happens though is there's some sort of sensitivity to the community for some exclusions. Oftentimes, what types of exclusions? Some baseline exclusions include district management salaries and benefits. So that's almost kind of like a given. You got to put that in, or the taxpayer association will say, don't vote for Tennessee's parcel tax. They're just going to go and use it for, God knows why. And then you develop the list of exclusions based on the feedback from the community. So, and it is on a community by community basis, and really is a reflection of what the history of the community and the school district is, and then that's the things that you have somewhat control over, but then also what's the history of the community and other public, adjacent public agencies. If they feel that the city did well with their money, the school district did well with their money, they'll require less exclusions. In communities where they've had difficulty with public agencies in the past, some of them require like a laundry list of this is the only thing I'm spending on. I'm only spending on science. But that's a case by case basis, and that's one thing that I want to stress is when we do the community survey, it's not a binary survey, meaning it's not a would you pass it or not. It's a survey that really does attempt to better understand the community's feelings about it, meaning what it's used for, what it's not used for, the level of trust that they would have with you giving you the money, and that, based on those surveys, it not only dictates or lets you know should we go, do we have a chance of winning or not, but it also says how would we need to structure the measure to give it the best chance of being approved.
If we pass a partial tax and we did it for a specific reason, and that reason costs X number of dollars, say it's in the limits, when that dollar amount is reached, does the partial tax go away?
So generally, what the parcel tax would do is it would generate a dollar amount per parcel for a fixed period of time. So a fixed period of time. So after, say you approved one for 5 years, in 4 years after you approved it, if you wanted to continue funding the program, you would go back with another parcel tax measure. And the parcel tax measure, just like what San Marino did, would be an extension of an existing measure. So you go back to the community, you would say, 4 years ago we asked you to do this, you approved the measure, we did these things, here was the success we had, we want to continue it on. And that you would have to get another approval of another parcel tax to extend that. If you did nothing after the 5-year period, it would simply, you would simply not be able to let you capture it.
So once you reach the dollar value,
No.
doesn't you just pick another project to spend the money on? Or
So if
you say it's all going to the libraries, arbitrary.
Yeah. So if you had $1 million project and we did the math and assumed that we'd be able to generate $1 million and somehow we generated $1.5 million, The district could either, if it was authorized, could utilize the other $500,000 for another project on this potential list of things that the parcel tax was for. So say there was priorities. If there was only a single priority, just that one thing, then the district could simply request that the county levy less than what the maximum tax rate would be. So you go to the county and say, instead of doing $150, just do $120 because we're exceeding the amount. In Temple City, because of the status of the community, there's no huge developments coming around. There's not any. We'll be able to put our finger pretty close onto what it will generate. We're not going to see wide swings. Likely not to see wide swings one way or the other, because the community is mature enough that we have probably a decent handle on demographics of the mix of seniors versus non-seniors, as well as the most important number that drives, which is the total number of parcels. So I think if we look back at your community over the last 10 years, you probably have had plus or minus 1 or 2% the same number of parcels each year. So not a lot of new parcels.
And just to confirm, it's 2/3 vote of those who vote, not those that are.
Yeah, two-thirds vote for those votes cast, correct.
Steve, what is the cost of putting the parcel tax item on the ballot for Temple City?
So, so if you went on a large ballot, so if you went on, say, in this next November, it would be similar to what you've been paying for just like a school board election. So, the fees associated with the county are, a couple $1,000. The other significant fee and cost associated with the parcel tax for the district is during the implementation, the exploration phase. So to get a survey done is going to be a significant survey. It could be around kind of the $30,000 mark. So there'll be a cost associated with that. So maybe a total all-in budget for planning and those types of things, somewhere in the $50,000 range, and then just a fairly nominal fee for the county to get you on the ballot. If you go on off-cycle elections, what happens is the county looks at the election, and then they look at the amount to administer that election, and then they share the cost across all agencies and anybody who's going to be on the ballot, all the campaigns. So as a result, when you go on big ones, it's pretty expensive. The real cost is in the planning stage.
Is this general fund expenditure, or can the parcel income reimburse the district's general fund?
So I would defer the exact answer to an attorney, but I believe most of the planning costs associated with the parcel tax can be reimbursed from the parcel tax if it's successful and if it's correct. Obviously, if it excludes that as a use, then it wouldn't be able to. But I believe almost all of them can be reimbursed to the district out of the proceeds of the parcel tax.
One more question. I don't want to monopolize all these questions.
Yeah.
With the GO bond, we have a citizens oversight committee now. For compliance with parcel taxes, is there any accountability to the community, any citizen oversight committee requirements?
So there is no legal requirement or statutory requirement for you to establish a citizens oversight committee or any type of accounting, extraordinary accounting. The parcel tax revenue and the uses will be reported along in your books and disclosed to the public like you would disclose any operational funds. But there's no requirement to do a citizens oversight committee or an annual report specifically about the parcel tax. That said, many school districts both either do it because of because they feel like it's good public practice, or more and more taxpayers associations within the county have been really putting pressure on public agencies to include those types of additional accountability measures when they're looking at your tax ownership. I'm not aware of a district that has been asked to do a citizens oversight committee for it, But I do know that many of the parcel taxes include a separate annual report being taken to the board, which is just kind of a 1 or 2 page Excel spreadsheet. We collected this, and here are the programs that have been funded. But that, again, that's something that is self-imposed based on its effect on the overall chance of positive outcome.
Mark,
Yeah, shoot.
I know you highlighted the very bottom one about the teacher salary increase.
Yeah.
Can a school district use parcel tax income for budget certification with the county?
Yes. Yeah. As long as it's within the duration. So if you had 3 years left, it comes to the bottom line, and if it would, take, again, you have to direct it to the cost. So it doesn't have to be extraordinary costs. It could be costs that you would otherwise use out of the general fund. So it can be used. And again, what makes it a little bit more not an ideal tool to fund salaries and benefits is just the fact that it's potentially temporary in nature. And if you change your salary structure based on collecting $2 or $3 million a year in parcel taxes, you go to the community to re-up that parcel tax and they say no, now you're scrambling to try to figure out, okay, well now we're like, I just lost $3 million. It's never a positive situation where you have to cut a program, and there's a staff implication to that, and definitely quality of education, but it's significantly in the pantheon of easy. It's much easier than trying to roll back on scheduled salary increases.
Ask one more. We have OPEB liabilities. This is the post-retirement benefits. Can parcel taxes be used to apply to OPEB liabilities?
Yes, yeah. So you could, if the community was in support, put forward a parcel tax and say we're going to utilize this to defer the cost of OPEB. Again, this is all within the context of voter approval. So, depending on, candidly, what you run into in OPEB is significantly small levels of awareness of what the OPEB challenge really is. So I don't believe that there are any districts in the state that have parcel taxes specifically funding OPEB. But again, part of it is just because the man on the street they don't really understand what you're talking about. They've never heard about it. They're like, I don't even know what an OPEB is.
Any other question? Oh,
If somebody, if someone does a partial tax and passes, like our team, and they spend it all on salaries, but they got a continuance and they passed it for 27 years or something, is that unusual? Given for that long a period?
Is it unusual to pass a tax with a duration of 27 years? I think it would be out of the majority. I think when you look at the 5 to 8 year parcel tax measure duration, you're probably looking at maybe in the 90% of all parcel taxes falling somewhere within that window of time. That said, there are school districts as well as cities throughout the state that have indefinite parcel taxes, and those that have parcel taxes either short of 5 years or extended over 8. That's kind of that majority. What happens is when you go to the planning process and you go through the community survey, that'll be one of the things you ask, and the responses to community surveys is what kind of has educated the industry of that sweet spot being between 5 and 8 years. If you go, I had a client who was exploring the parcel tax, who's in coastal Northern California, way up over the Bay Area, and the advice that their political consultant told them was, well, if you're going to go over 8 years, just go forever, because we don't see their studies had shown statewide, once you go over 8 years, there's no difference in approval rate if you're going 8 years or forever. The average person just looks at 9 years and says, oh, that's forever.
And for the average homeowner, will it appear on the their tax statement for the house?
Yes, yeah, in the county of Los Angeles, will appear on their tax statement in the same category as what they call special taxes. So these are fixed assessment.
It will say partial tax.
Correct, it would say Temple Unified School District parcel tax. It'll be, if you've ever looked at your tax bill, there's a countywide vector control charge. It's like $7 or $6 or something. That's the section of the bill it shows up on.
And then if one person, one group does a partial tax, does that eliminate other people? Like, can the city do a partial tax and we do a partial tax?
Correct, yeah.
Currently, we can have 3 or 4 different partial taxes.
Yeah, currently there are no legal restrictions in the state of California for either the number of measures or the total amount of measures that can be on a property tax bill. The only legal restriction is that any time a public agency increases property taxes, with the exception of the school district allowance for Prop 39, which is a 55% vote, that whatever increase in those property tax be passed by 2/3. So there's again, we have to imagine that each community has some overall tolerance for tax charges. So there's some amount after which they wouldn't approve a tax even if they really wanted those goods and services. But there's no statutory limit in the state of California.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Item 19 is textbooks and curriculum adoptions update.
Thank you, this is me. So in the spring of the year, this is normally when we go through and set our budgets, and you will notice that this spring, we have a lot of items coming to the board just for discussion information, just to bring you awareness of anything that could have either a positive or negative effect as we go through that budget planning and budget setting timeframe. With regard to our textbook adoption or curriculum adoption or technology adoption that goes along with it, it's really important that we kind of give you the whole lay of the land or the scope of how we as a district are planning on meeting the state standards and making sure that the curriculum offered is also in alignment with those state standards. So if you go through our board policies, 6161.1, it just focuses on instruction and it really outlines the instructional materials adoption and how we have to follow the state approved framework. And we do select from state-approved vendors for all of our curriculum adoption and instructional materials adoptions. When we look at the elementary schedule for adoption, we've noticed that in this 2017-18 school year, we had adopted the math curriculum expressions, and that adoption is slated to end in about 2024. So it's running the current life of that cycle of adoption. ELA, or English Language Arts, we currently adopted for the 2019-20 school year Wonders curriculum. That's the first year of implementation. So that adoption will end in the year 2027. And our teachers are working extremely hard to roll in that newly adopted material that the board approved last spring. With regard to history and social science, the pilot for the state adopted curriculum would not come until 2025, and then if approved, after that the adoption process or cycle would start in 2026. So we have some time working with history, social science. Science, on the other hand, with the NGSS, or the Next Generation Science Standards, coming in, the pilot is slated to commence in 2021 with an adoption year beginning 2022. So that's pretty close. We've begun talking to our science teachers on the elementary level with regard to that adoption, looking at vendors, looking at vendor fairs, which took place this week. and last week to see what other materials are out there and which materials we would be willing to pilot in 2021. And then visual performing art, they don't have an adoption cycle currently. If we go into the secondary schedule for adoption, pretty similar. Math was not originally adopted when our elementary did go through the adoption cycle. So the math frameworks and the pilot is slated to commence in the year 2022. This is the second generation of the math curriculum adoptions. We didn't adopt in the first generation. We're now adopting the second generation of that curriculum material. So we are working with our math teachers on the secondary level, have had several meetings, myself along with Dr. Porter and the administrators at Oak and the high school and the math teachers in anticipating this adoption or this pilot and adoption cycle coming up. They again are looking at the state generated adoption materials currently, and we will have more information coming with regard to math. With regard to English language arts for the secondary level, currently there's a pilot going on at Oak Intermediate and the high school with regard to English this year. They are reviewing materials. The high school has suspended the option to adopt in spring. The intermediate school is planning to have an adoption selection this spring. And the high school said that they would just want to have a more extended pilot. So we are having the extended pilot for the high school next year. So they'll probably adopt next spring with regard to English language arts. And more information will be coming in a board agenda once the intermediate school has made their final selection for adoption. History, social science, much like the elementary program, not slated for pilot and adoption until 2025 and 2026 alike, and that's what's going to start their cycle. With regard to science, again, much like the elementary, with regard to the NGSS standards, we are wanting to, we have explored options with our science teachers and have met with both Oak and high school's science teachers and talked extensively about what their thoughts are on the pilot, what their thoughts are on adoption. They did attend the vendor fair last week and this week to take a look at what options of curriculum are available, and then to try to narrow down all of the vendors to about 2 or 3 that they may want to pilot for the following school year. So that will be coming on the horizon pretty soon. Health curriculum, the health curriculum is up for adoption soon. And as they have a pacing guide review slated for 2021, 2022, and then we'll be looking at that health curriculum to update that. With regard to, next slide. With regard to the core content, I kind of went through some of the English language arts and math adoptions that we have prior implemented, and we are currently working on the secondary with regard to ELA and math both at this time. And just to recap, next slide. Just to recap the science and the social science. The science frameworks are out, the vendor materials are out. Our teams have gone and reviewed those materials, and we will be meeting with them again this spring as departments of teachers just to make sure that we understand their voice in the selection process of the pilot programs, and then eventually go through the pilot with them all the way through the potential of an adoption. With social science, we do have a little bit of breathing room because they are pushed out for several years before the frameworks and the actually adopted materials would be readily available for us to view. So we have that social science is last on the adoption cycle for us. Next. So with regard to online curriculum, when we go through adoptions, there are certain situations where we adopt whole text or whole instructional materials for our teaching staff. And then there are areas where we have partnered with online curriculum providers. And those providers, it's not the digital curriculum associated with adoption. These providers actually hold or offer courses that students can take in a purely online environment. That our teachers currently do not teach. They're taught by a company and the teachers that are hired within that company. There are a couple areas where that just makes sense for students. Students who need a flexible environment and they're in like independent study or home hospital. There's some precursor or prior situation that we can't address or have them on campus with our regular staff. So those are or they have some affiliation with the DDSLC or the adult school, the independent study or adult school programs that they offer there. And students just need a different environment to access curriculum. It's normally used on a small scale. In recent, it has been used for credit recovery. Students who have failed in the all-year curricular setting, and they need some form of remediating those credits in order to maintain track for graduation. So it's been used in those two areas. In working with our union and the leadership, thank you, Ellen, we really want to look into this process. Our current vendor is Apex. It's a company called Apex, and the whole voice of our constituents, I don't think we're necessarily involved in the selection of the Apex program. So we just want to go through a vendor fair to have different online curriculum providers come in with our teachers, with our union staff, with our administrators, and then go through a process for selection, which I'll talk about in a little bit later. The vendor fair. So when going through a vendor fair, this is going to provide transparency to the process of selection of whomever we end up selecting and use from this point forward. It's always a good option just to explore what online vendor options we do have and to see if we can't get a price point break on some of the licensure that's associated with it. And then we also want to make sure that for those students who can't normally come to school and need a different way of accessing curriculum, that we do provide that. And we are needing to be compliant with those students who are on independent study PD, that they do have credentialed teachers that are actually teaching that or overseeing that program as well. The added advantage, I think, to our staff and our membership is that we can actually select a vendor that our teachers actually get trained and they become the teacher of record for that course, and we're not using a company's teachers, we actually use our own teachers. And in some programs, it's just a canned course where we can't change the content. Other vendors provide areas where we can change the content. It still meets the standards, but we can make sure that the higher expectations are put forth in those programs that would be memorable to our staff and having those courses on our transcript. So more information will come after we do hold the vendor fair here in March. With regard to technology, most of the online vendor provider rides on technology completely, but the curricular adoption process, most of the programs that we can select do have a heavy digital component with them, as we've seen in the recent Wonders adoption at the elementary ELA program that was just put in place this year. So as the instructional materials are moving towards that digital environment, we know that we need to keep pace with that. And then we need to make sure that as we go through the curriculum and the instructional materials adoption, that we also factor in the technology that's needed to run that curriculum. Just to give you just a cost out of the next 4 years of, this is potential cost out, and of course adjustments can be made at any time, and this has not been prior approved by the board, so this would just be our best estimate of the next 4 years of expenditures, just for your purview, and to have transparency of the process. Currently in the 2020-2021 school year, we're looking at that ELA intermediate adoption. They are going to make their selection this spring, and then that will be coming to the board for approval, I believe in April of this year. You see there that not only the ELA intermediate curriculum costs are associated here at $400,000, but you also have the technology in terms of the laptops or the Chromebooks that would need to be supportive of that curriculum so that our teachers are supported in implementing the curriculum. The base classroom package of tech replacement, these are devices that age out annually in our district, so we have completed in the year that I've been here a tech inventorying all the machines that are used at every single site, and with their end date and their age out date, or when their operational systems become ineffective or outdated, that we can't update them. And so those devices would have to be renewed or repurchased on a phase-out basis. So that's where the $500,000 comes. So you can see in the 2021 school year, it's about $1 million of just curricular investment that we would be looking at. And again, these are just the best estimated costs that we have at this time. And then if you move in the out years, you can see that we are looking in 2021-22, we're looking at ELA at the high school level, and then the science standards at the 6 through 12 level. In 22-23, we're looking at science standards for TK through 5, and then the math adoption for TK through 5 as that's coming to its end, and we're going to have to look at renewing if we do choose to go down that path. And then potentially in the 23-24 school year, that math curriculum, TK through 12. So now you're going to do the whole, we can either do it partially in the 2022-23 year, or we can do it all in the 23-24 school year to complete the updated math requirement. As we go to next steps, again, we just want to look at coordinating that at vendor fair and making sure that all of our stakeholders have a voice in the selection. And we want to just look at our options in terms of pricing, but also at participation from our own staff teaching the classes and actually amending the content of those classes. We do want to go through the ELA pilot with Oak Intermediate and present the recommendation in April. And then we want to coordinate with the science teachers if they need supplemental materials from now until we adopt. That is under for discussion with the science teachers until we go through the actual pilot and adoption process with both elementary and the secondary. And then, like I said before, all of our science teachers, there's representatives of our science teachers who went through the vendor fair last week and this week. Are there any questions at this time? Matt?
Yeah, when I threw my hat into the ring to get back on the school board, I did meet with some of our teachers, and one of the issues they brought up as a real concern for them was the technology deployment and their inability basically to use it. I've taken the opportunity at some open houses and back to school nights and those kinds of events and asked about the smart boards in the rooms and whatnot, and I don't get the impression that a lot of the equipment that we've invested in is really being used. And when I looked at the plan earlier tonight, I see an interest. The only specific thing I see is an interest in buying some carts with some laptops and whatnot. But that's just equipment. I'm not honestly clear on what the district's technology plan is, and I kind of sense that many of our teachers are in that same boat. So I guess that's really what I'm most interested in terms of this presentation and going forward. It maybe means we have a technology plan presentation coming in the next few weeks or months or whatever, but I guess it remains a big question mark on my mind, just to be very honest.
And a technology plan is forthcoming this spring as we go through these discussion information items, just so that you can see the planning behind some of the things that we are doing or proposing prior to taking any action, so we can kind of see the totality of everything, so, yes.
Are we involving our teachers in those discussions and whatnot?
We are, and we have, beginning even last year, and through the staff meetings that the principals have held with their staff in terms of gathering feedback on the types of technology or technology used. When we're in meetings with teachers too, we do ask what they're using currently, what they would need, or what their overall needs are, and putting forth a proposed plan. The beginning of that was really getting the tech inventory to see what we have, what's out there, the longevity of those devices to see, where we would need to reinvest as well.
I guess my concern, and I don't mean this as disrespectful to anybody, but my impression is there's pockets of resources in the district that are using the technology, and there's others that aren't, and I kind of get the sense that, my impression, right or wrong, that maybe more people are uncomfortable with it than are comfortable. And I almost wonder if you ask the average teacher what they want out of it, if they can really answer that, if they really understand what the benefits could be. And that's that's, I guess, where I'm going with this whole discussion.
Sure. No, that's good feedback. Thank you.
Kim, did you have a question?
Yes, for the technology portion, which was the slide before, or 2 slides back, is that also to give us one-to-one?
The technology inside of this plan isn't a technology plan that gives you one-to-one coverage across the district. This would be the technology that would need to be implemented in those areas to support the teachers using what would be newly purchased curriculum, which has a heavy or a reliance on technology along with it. So yes, you have textbooks and yes, you have like consumable materials, but you also have an online or a digital component to the curriculum purchases.
And
that
a lot of the computers we purchase or spend our money on are obsolete now, okay? Or are they becoming obsolete?
So every year that we go through the inventories of the technology devices to see which ones have aged out of service, or that the operating systems cannot be updated enough to run the current configurations. So yes, we take that inventory and then we make sure that we e-waste those materials that are no longer effective.
So we're gonna see all that in the technology.
Yes, you will.
You know, I appreciate the timeline. I know those are rough figures, you know, 500,000, et cetera, but the timeline and also the adoption cycle timeline is very informative. And along with the question that Ken just asked about the one-to-one, you know, with the 27 COTS in 21-22 school year, 27, 23rd, another 7 COTS. The one-to-one, I see that the devices, you know, the past investments have been on the boards and the many generations of different technologies, and our teachers are experiencing when we do professional development, we're hitting different generations of computers. So I could see those pockets that Matt has observed, and I've seen that phenomenon in the back to school nights and open houses, that in classrooms there are so many generations, and some of them are just e-waste materials. But I see the 27 COTS in year 21-22. Hopefully we could hit that one-to-one, because when we're looking at the textbook adoptions, these are technology textbooks now. These are online resources. It's not just, you know, read chapter 1 and do those questions on the back of that chapter and then look up the answers in the back of the textbook. It's not like that anymore. A lot of those problems, homework assignments, are interactive on a device. You know, but the thing is, we got to give kids access with those devices, through those devices first. I know years ago when we rolled out the boards, the question is, those are interactive whiteboards. What is the interaction? My question was interaction. The kids are interacting with a board, not with people. Devices allow kids to interact with people online, virtually. And that's where I envision looking at those 27 COTS in the following year. I think this is a very, very good vision, very good timeline. I was whispering to Melissa, I want to make sure the public hears this too. Hopefully, if we seriously consider a parcel, that the parcel could pick up, the parcel income could pay for some of this, because we're looking at a one-time kind of investment for a short duration, 5 to 8 years, maybe 5 years, 4 or 5 years, and sell this to the community in the form of these are instructional technology, instructional materials for students, and it's tangible, it's visible. And a question tied to this is, I see NGSS on one of those slides right there, NGSS. I know the results came out last month. I'm curious, since we don't have the NGSS materials, how our students have performed. I know it's public information right now, but maybe the public could get an update as to how we have done as a school district compared to surrounding school district on NGSS.
Yeah, we absolutely can bring that data back for you and the comparative data as well. I do want to thank our teaching staff because when we talked to them about the science curriculum, they've all made several attempts with their administrative teams, and I'm not quite sure of the conversations that have been had, but to implement and to develop and to emass information or materials to meet the standards, even though we've not adopted the standards. So I think that they've made a tremendous effort to do that, so I do want to acknowledge that. But yes, we can bring the data back absolutely for you. And I do believe when we do talk about the tech plan, and when I've spoken about it, to different staff meetings or things like that, I do believe it needs to be differentiated. I don't think a one size fits all ever fits all. And that, the way a math teacher may use technology is very different than an English teacher or a history teacher or a science teacher. And so we've had those meetings, and especially, I'll just use a science staff because it was the most recent. We've had those meetings of saying, if you did have a device in your classroom, what would you use it for? What could you use it for? Do you need it? Do you not? Is it used in the laboratory? Could it look like this? And so, having them go and see what's available or what their interests are and bringing that back to us for feedback. Because we don't want to purchase devices just to purchase devices. We do want to make them purposeful. We do know that absolutely the training needs to come along with it. And I don't know the prior implementation of the prior devices, boards or technologies that are sitting in the classroom, what the staff really was trained on. But the differentiation in the plan should be there. My expectation is that that's one of the focuses. The other one is sustainability, like how do we put devices in or technologies in that are needed and necessary, but how do we sustain it over time so that we lead our budget with that and it's not always, oh my gosh, we're having to e-waste and we're having to be reactive at gaining purchases. So hopefully those two things will shine in that plan.
Let me mention another thing. All CASP assessments, this is the high stakes student, the state testing the students grades 3 and up will have to take, they're done on a computer. And the thing is, if schools have to rotate kids through a laboratory, a computer lab, just to take the assessments, that is very inefficient, very ineffective, and it wouldn't really, I would say, capture the true knowledge and skill set of our students. Having access to devices, it's a student achievement amplifier, not just reflected in student test scores, but throughout the year, students are using how to communicate, how to create content on these devices. There's a lot of research done on the one-to-one devices and the results we see in student achievement as measured in state assessments, not just because those devices afford students the ability to take assessments in a comfortable and fashion that they're used to those devices at the time of testing.
LPAC too, so all of our EL students, it's all digital now, so that was a big shift, I think, 2 years ago, and definitely this year it's all digital. So, and the assessment window is all in the spring, which makes it very difficult for staff to make sure that those students rotate through. But anyway, so in the future, yes, we will bring back the tech plan for your consideration, and hopefully with those things that stand out. But I do appreciate the feedback. That's actually good feedback.
Yes. It seemed like a couple of years ago, maybe 3 or 4, when we put in the boards, we spent $1 million on S, put them in. But when I asked the teachers, are you using it? Some of them said yes, because they can convert their old files to the board. But a lot of them said no, because they couldn't convert files, existing files, to the board. And the teachers, the people who actually taught the class, the best teachers were teachers themselves, who understood what a teacher in a classroom goes through and needs the board for. And so we need to buy boards that are appropriate for the classrooms. And the training should be led by a teacher who's familiar with using the board in a classroom, I think. So I agree with Smith. Only I was doing it like 3 or 4 years ago. But I think a lot of teachers were displeased with the new boards.
Okay, let's move on to item 20, discussion on personnel transaction request, PTR.
So I will make this quick, I promise. The personnel department has been working really hard with the help. Thank you.
The personnel department has been working really hard with the help of business services to make our department more efficient. We started off the year with moving our files to digital, and in that vein, we are trying to move to an online workflow system. We've been currently evaluating a workflow system. We want to streamline everything. Currently, our process consists of paper-based submission system, which leads to reporting errors and miscommunication between district office and school sites. The paper-based method delays board approval, often causes mispayment and untimely transactions. Having a system that is automated would allow staff to submit requests immediately and to track the submission and monitor the approval process. It would be quicker. We did take the time to bring in our classified staff that is primarily responsible for this paper trail. We did it in October with Juris and with the Director of Student Support Services, Hannah Getty. 50% of the responses basically said we need a better tracking system, which is where the PTR comes from, be able to track that process. A PTR is initiated when we have a change in position, a new position, if we terminate a position, anything that deals with hiring. We are paper, we're doing it by paper, and we just need to clean up our system and speed that process up. 33% of the responses asked for an easier way to assign account strings, such as a drop-down menu. If the process were electronic, we do all that by hand. Mary Ann's people put the numbers in for us. 33% responses focused on specific questions regarding extra pay and stipends, and 25% had questions regarding urgent or unpredictable situations in which an employee needs to complete the work as needed, but the PTR process takes a little bit longer than sometimes we need it to move faster. If you take a look at possible online features, there's quite a bit. Employee tracking, work history, credentials. It can track vaccination, onboarding, and exiting is very important to us. So when an employee gets hired, there's so many things that they have to fill out, benefits to consider, and making that process online makes it, one, easier for the candidate coming in, and then easier for the personnel office to walk them through everything, to walk them through their choices, and to have it inputted right away. Also with exiting, it lets us track everything that needs to be collected, everything that needs to be signed. So that's just some of it. It helps track sick leave and vacation, attendance and hours worked, just some of the things that it can do. Time reporting and paid off is one. Allows school and district staff to report time and attendance. Onboarding, again, as I was saying, this is really important to our department. New hires can read inside district forms and documents, including manuals and policies. Information can collect the personal, the W-4, the I-9 dependents. It eliminates our lovely paper packets if you come into our office that we have stacks of. Personnel requisition workflow completely goes online. It could include account strings, the funding sources, and employee types, certificated classified management. It can go through the approval process so everyone can sign and check off and can check out. The problem right now, sometimes it gets stalled in one of these offices, and this kind of eliminates that completely because you can see where it is in the approval line. Absence management and substitute calling. Most of the work online, we currently use Frontline for this, but we could convert if it's easier to a different system, but right now we use Frontline. Employee portal, Basically, an employee can get on self-service, they can look at their evaluations, their credentials, upload documents, check leave balances and other information. Electronic documents and forms, basically anything that a document we want to upload, whether a resume transcript, really helps with the hiring process. Sign forms online. Evaluations, if we choose to do that, we can upload them to that system. Assignment monitoring, it can basically compare the teacher's credentials to courses and classes taught, which is very important because the CTC requires us to now do that yearly. It's a new system where we have to take a look at making sure our teachers have the right credentials and reporting that. Hiring and recruitment, it helps us post jobs, help us to collect applications, and which is nice, it lets us run reports and analytics. I can run teacher rosters quicker, school board reports, CBEDS, and how it reads into our ARIES system and CalPads. Okay, here are our options. It took us a long time. We worked with other districts, we worked with vendors. Our option one that the team chose was Helios. It is under about $50,000 and includes on-site training. This option two that came in was Kronos. Kind of offers the same thing, same packages as Helios. However, it does not include on-site training, that price, and many more districts in the area use Helios. San Marino, Claremont has picked it up, Burbank, quite a number of others. I meet with the San Gabriel Human Resources once a month. It's a group of 60 of us. We are kind of all in the same boat when it comes to the paper. We are all looking for tools. Frontline does not do onboarding and a lot of the processes that we need, but we did reach out to them. They came to do a presentation. Smart Tools is a great tool, but we need the onboarding and exiting, and it probably is more suited for the business end of it. But we researched a lot. There are not many vendors out there that give us a complete package, but these are the two leading contenders. So I know this is a lot of information towards the end of the night, but I wanted you to make sure that you had the data from the classified staff that is responsible for filling out all these forms. This system would save countless work hours and make everything more efficient and lead to less errors, especially in paying people on time, which is, crucial. People work the hours, we need to get them paid, and just looking to streamline our processes. Questions?
Very clearly, efficiency saves across the board, and so that's a great thing. That's always a great thing. Does it also, would implementing something like this have FTE saves for us?
FTEs in terms of staffing, like cut down on staffing.
Yeah, or functions that are no longer necessary because of this.
You know what, I'm not gonna say yes or no. It will probably make us more efficient because right now, if you look at like the HR department, we are so weighed by paperwork. It will probably take a while to measure like how much it takes off. As with any system, it takes a couple years to train, retrain, make sure we're using it properly because as you know, we have to put the right data in so it doesn't give us the same errors coming out. From what both Helios and Kronos both report, it significantly decreases the amount of paperwork and number of hours. Yes, so that is true. And then we will have to take a look at, what does that do to the overall department impact? Because there's still, HR or personnel does many things. PTR just sucks up so much time. It would give us more time to spend on leaves. Quite a percentage of our staff are on leaves. More time on educating our members on benefits rather than outsourcing to something like American Fidelity. Would be, we can look at more training for our staff. Right now, I will have to say that office is so consumed with paperwork, and I think that time could be better spent educating our members on, retirement and benefits and just.
So it could just be a full service.
Yeah, we are not full service. It's kind of like a surface. And onboarding, we want our employees when they're first hired to come in and feel welcomed and well-informed about their choices. And this would just help give us more time to do that.
I totally, my experience with rollouts of, this in private industry, they have done this years ago. And the trend that we see is that people get to do more meaningful work. We're in the human people industry, right? If this were manufacturing, I could see a reduction in FTE, but we're not, in the manufacturing business. This is HR, you're right. First floor, people walk in, it is the customer service department. The other thing is, it's not just the efficiency in the paperwork, it's also accuracy. We're looking at a process flow where you see that transparency right there. If a board member or a school board wants to see what happened when, you can identify very accurately down to, to the actual step. Also, my understanding is that these systems are hosted on the cloud. So it lessens our liability on the ransomware attacks. Because if we're doing everything, on paper on Excel spreadsheets, we are subject to ransomware attacks. And districts have gone through that. They're very expensive, data get, that's what it is. They hold us ransom. So I see this as a step totally in the right direction.
And the analytics alone probably
would be
so
amazing for us.
valuable to us. Yeah.
The one thing I have to say in terms of when I first came aboard and started digitizing everybody's files, that alone has saved us so much time, because now when an employee wants to see their file for any reason, they don't have to come in here and physically sit and try to go through all that. We can send them the file that's in the cloud, and they can look at it at home in the privacy of their own home, take their notes and whatever they need to do. Yes.
Is option 1 and 2 solve all the problems that or
You know what? It's
both of them?
both of them are very close to each other in terms of products that they offer. However, Kronos is more out of state. Less districts use them. Higher price point, and
No training.
they do offer training, but more cost because it wasn't included in the price that they gave me. It's more online training. Helios, more local based, more training on site included in the price, and used by districts that we talk to on a regular basis, so we can kind of troubleshoot together and visit them and kind of debrief on what obstacles they had, and try to not repeat those mistakes and implement it smarter.
Which one?
It's Helios.
Okay, and Helios solves all the problems that you went through before.
Yes, if we implement it correctly.
Okay, any last questions? All right, let's move on to item. Oh, thank you very much. Item 21, which is the 2020 California School Boards Association Delegate Assembly Election. We have 2 candidates, and we have to vote for 2, so make it pretty simple.
Actually, just to throw a little bit of a wrench into it, in the document in our packet where it identifies the candidates, it actually lists 3. And
I saw that.
Sorry about that. There's also Kimberly Keene from Pasadena Unified. So either her term doesn't expire this year, or there should be seats filled. But I guess
The ballot only has 2 on it, so. Okay, so would someone like to make a motion?
Make a motion
What is your motion?
that we set the 2 that are noted on the first page.
Okay, that would be Gregory Krikorian and Gary Thomas Scott. Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Member Smith. Okay, Samuel?
Yes.
Student board member votes yes, and the rest of the board signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Item number 22 is to receive for first reading board policies, and would you like to give us a little background on these two?
Absolutely. So the first board policy I'm going to speak on is BP 5022. It's student and family privacy rights. The Assembly bill several years ago came out to speak to student and privacy rights, to make sure that all student information that are logged in online systems, software, etc., reflect the privacy of students and that their information cannot be distributed out to any other agency other than the authorizing agency of that software or of that product. So in schools, we do use a lot of software that augment curriculum, where students' information or like an email information or students' information ID number may be logged in, and so we have an obligation to provide that privacy. This law came out several years ago, but we did not, for whatever reason, adopt the policy. So this is just our official adopting of that policy, and it's basically the CSBA approved policy that we are adopting. You do have an option within the policy for consideration. So at this time, the board would read it for the first read. We would amend the policy to follow the CSBA guidelines.
Okay. Should we vote on these separately, or?
Do you want to? The second one is board policy 3290, is with regard to gifts, grants, and bequests. And so again, we're just updating this board policy as well. This policy we have had in the adoption, but we did not update with the CSBA recommended updates in the past several years. So this board policy is on for consideration for a first read as well.
I did read this, and I think I was a little concerned about the last page with regard to the language around online campaigns and approvals and so forth. I'm putting on my hat as a PTA and other booster kind of volunteers. Almost every fundraiser, it has an online component to it, and I think it's just becomes like too restrictive and doesn't really. It makes it more difficult, let's just put it that way, for, community part volunteers, groups to do what they do for our students. So I'm a little concerned about that language.
Which language?
It's on the last page, and it talks about any person or entity who wishes to conduct an online fundraising campaign, including a crowdfunding campaign for the benefit of the district, the school, or a classroom, shall submit a written request for prior approval to the superintendent or designee. I'm curious to know why it's only online campaigns and not all fundraisers. But also, I'm concerned that, I've never, in all the years that I've been on any volunteer group, we've never had to get approval to do a fundraiser. So I just think it's just restrictive and a little outside of what I think we want to do with our volunteer groups.
This is part of the California School Board Association proposal.
This would be in alignment with, we didn't add any additional language at all, or local language as it's called, into the policy. We did not add anything, so this would be the CSBA recommended language. The only thing that I can think of with regard to online, especially if you're doing fundraisers, is just sometimes student information or student rosters would be included in those online components, and we can't disclose student rosters anyway. That's just an education code. I think that that's probably why that language is in there. And if you read in tandem with like the booster approval process, it clearly states that you can't upload or disclose student rosters of any kind. So I'm thinking that that's probably what it's referencing.
How about if we do a motion before we get too deep into this discussion? Can someone want to make a
Move to
motion?
receive the first reading.
Okay, and do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by member Lynn. Okay. Now, is there discussion on this?
That's
okay. No problem.
Yeah, and I think if there's another place where where it's very specifically outlining the concern that they have related to, student rosters and so forth, then I think that information can reside in another place. But here, I just feel like I just don't see all of our booster groups submitting an approval for a fundraiser because almost all of them have online components. So I would just say my feedback would be if we could adjust this or remove this language, or make it more in line with, the intent that we have to safeguard student information, that's fine, but I just don't see that you want to be bogged down with approvals for every fundraiser that goes on in this district.
I guess I disagree with that. I want to know if I donate money to something that it's going to go to whatever group it is and whatever program it is. Without this, any Joe Blow could put something on, GoFundMe and say it's for Temple City School District and it's really not.
Is that how you read it? Because I don't read it that way.
Yeah, that's how I read it.
Because I read it that like any parent group that has the ability to fundraise for us, so any group, boosters or anything, that they have to submit an approval. Because every fundraiser, there's always something that says, hey, we're raising money for this particular purpose. That's a huge part of a successful fundraising campaign, is to tell everybody that's what it's for and what the money will be used for. So maybe because I know that that's the way fundraisers go with all the booster groups, I just feel like getting approval from the superintendent to run the fundraiser, if it has an online component, just seems restrictive to me.
I hear you, Melissa. I think my first read on this is that this only applies to the school district. Booster clubs are separate entities, separate organizations. PTA is separate. They could raise funds however they want. And the thing is, I think this applies to, let's say, a teacher doing a GoFundMe page.
Okay, so yeah, I didn't read it that way.
Employees. But I don't see
Any
this as...
person or entity who wishes to conduct online campaigns for the benefit of the district, the school, or a classroom shall submit written request for prior approval. Approval of the request shall take into consideration. So I don't know that it calls that out like that, but that's a good point. I mean, it could include that, but it's just something to think. Maybe there's a way to make sure that it doesn't impede our kids from being able to do that, because I don't think that's our intention.
Can I just add one more thing? With regard to the booster clubs, with their application process, you outline the fundraising items, activities that they're intending to do. And then by approval of the booster club by the board, you're approving their fundraising campaigns. So that's kind of in there anyway.
So we don't need it in here, do we?
Well, I guess again, anyone could come and put something on GoFundMe and say, I'm raising money for La Rosa School and it's gonna be to buy computers for the classroom, and people would donate money and it would have absolutely nothing to do with that. So it could be a total scam. So I wanna know when I donate money to something that it's legitimately going to be going to the school or the school district. Now, I know at the high school, Samuel, correct me if I'm wrong, but the ASB has to approve all the fundraising activities, right?
Yeah.
So, but I'm not sure about the process for Oak or the elementary schools, but that's my concern is, because I've seen things on Facebook before and I'm like, that seems pretty suspicious. And you hear about those kinds of things too, where people are scammed out of money.
But, okay, so people that are scammers, they're going to do that regardless of our board policy, but what does this do to safeguard us from something like that? I'm not clear.
Well, someone could call the district and say, is this approved activity? And they would say, yes, the board or superintendent or whoever approved it, and then they know it's okay to donate to it. And if they call...
Couldn't they call the school where the fundraising is happening, or the group, the booster group or something?
Well, I mean, again, it could just be any person could do it.
I think for me, as long as, it's really twofold. One, Donna, I agree with what you're saying, someone could have a fake fundraising activity. We have no resource then to hold that person or entity accountable either. So if they are fundraising on behalf of the district and they have no affiliation with us and they're just, scamming money, legally, we would want to pursue them.
We could, right? I mean,
And
that's
so-
just illegal, period, without this board policy.
Why is it illegal?
Because it's fraud.
How do you know it's fraud though?
If the district is not recognizing it and they're not benefiting from the dollars, then it's fraudulent.
This is how we recognize it, by getting it approved.
But what I'm also saying is that, you're right, we don't want to impede the booster clubs from raising money either. So I think in the booster club policy, which I don't have here tonight, but in the booster club policy, in the application process, they outline whatever fundraising activities they are going to do for whatever activity they're supporting, and that's already approved. So when they reorg in May and they submit their materials for approval, one of their items is that list of fundraising activities they're going to be doing, and if the board doesn't clearly recognize them, and they're done, like that they can just go do it.
I think that's a more streamlined way of doing it.
And I think this does say, for those groups that are not affiliated with us, or may say they are, and they're really not, then we approve that we didn't recognize you, we didn't approve whatever it is that you're doing, and then we would probably pursue them.
Or the other side of that is, someone wants to raise, because I think this might have happened, someone wanted to raise money for the marquee at the high school. Totally legitimate, they wanted to get alumni to donate money and give it to the school, which is fine, but I guess we need to know that they're doing that and approve it. And
I can come up with there was a case that happened, legitimate organization, high school football players, right, they want to raise money for their team, uniforms and everything, so they were selling magazines. So knocking door to door within the community saying, we're this district's high school football team. I don't know if you know this case, but, and they were selling magazines and the dads were signing up. What were they selling? They were selling Playboy and that was being done. And then the thing is the district would take a hit. Because then the district, are you endorsing this? Are your kids really doing this? We don't want to be on, in the newspaper for something like this. So this is something, I could see this protects our district in a way that board policy is very high level. Administrative regulations goes into the details. The booster club concern, I totally hear you, Melissa.
Yeah.
It is a separate board policy.
Yeah, just make sure we don't.
Yes, our board historically hasn't really approved, we should and we have to approve the booster clubs, I think on an annual basis, right? We just don't have that practice, and that's what Kim is saying, we gotta put that into practice.
Oh, that's really
Once
cool.
approved, the booster clubs are independent organizations. They can do whatever they want, we receive the check,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good with that too. Okay, any other questions on either of these two?
The only other comment is, on the first policy, we have to decide on the option 1 or option 2, and this is on policy BP 5022.
That's our second policy.
That's the second policy.
Yeah, that's on our agenda, in our packet, it's the second one.
Oh, it's the second one, sorry. And so we would need to decide on option 1 or option 2, whichever the board would choose. The administration recommends option 1.
I concur. I can't see any situation where it would be appropriate for us to sell our students' information, so.
Yeah.
So I'll be happy to amend my motion and
Would you
specify
please?
option 1.
Okay.
We're going to approve it next time we get together anyway for a final approval.
Okay. So do we need to amend the motion then, if we we just kind of have a
I
consensus?
include option 1. So
Okay, all right, option 1, and then Mike, do you agree to that amendment? Okay. All right, well then we'll go ahead and take a vote. Samuel?
Yes.
And the rest of the board signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And we'll move on to item 23, receive for second reading and approval, 3 board policies. Is there anything you'd like to say about these?
Compensation reimbursement, that just deals with the board bylaw of excusing a member who misses a meeting. BP 6146.11, alternative credits towards graduation. This solidifies a maximum of 40 credits that students can take outside of our district. And that was work that was presented to you in collaboration with union leadership.
If they take these 40 units outside of school, they have to be Ross certified?
They have to be accredited agencies, and they have to be CSU approved. So there is regulations on where they can go to receive these credits. The other one is BP 6162.51, and that's state academic achievement test, and that was to update the language, which still referred to the STAR assessment, and we just updated it to the current language of the assessments we offer.
Would someone like to make a motion to receive for second reading and approve those 3 board policies?
Motion.
Motion by member Espinosa.
Second.
Second by member Smith. Samuel?
Yes.
The rest of the board? Aye. Any nays? Okay, that motion is approved 5-0. Item 24 is adopt resolution 1920-13 in support of Proposition 13, which is the public preschool K-12 and college health and safety bond act of 2020, Assembly Bill 48. Is there anything you'd like to?
You have to make a motion.
We haven't even made a motion yet. Is there anything?
To make the motion to adopt the resolution for Prop 13.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by member Lynn, second by member Espinosa. Is there any discussion on this? Yes.
Yes, I just don't think we should enter the world of politics, just as a principle.
Okay.
We shouldn't decide what the public should or should not vote for. Yeah, we're a nonpartisan group anyways. And so it's a practical thing, I don't think we should, whether we get money or if somebody else gets money, it's something, if it's on the ballot, it's something we should stay away from as a group. I think we should just table this whole issue.
Well, I disagree with you. If you read our bylaws, one of our duties is to advocate for public education and for our students. Is there anyone else who'd like to make a comment, any discussion? Okay, this will be a roll call vote. We'll start first with our student board members' preferential vote. Samuel?
Yes.
Okay. Member Smith?
No.
Member Espinosa?
Yes.
Member Lynn?
Yes.
I vote yes, and member Nollenberg?
Abstain. Just don't think we should.
All right, the motion passes 3-1-1. Next, we'll move on to item 25, which is adopt resolution 1920-14 proclaiming March as Arts Education Month.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by member Smith, second by member Espinosa. Is there any questions or comments on this? Okay, it's a roll call vote again. So Samuel, your preferential vote? Yes. Okay, we'll start this time with member Espinosa.
Yes.
Okay, member Lynn?
Yes.
I'm yes. Member Nollenberg?
Yes.
And member Smith?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. Item 26 is to approve the SRP, Supplemental Retirement Plan. And Mary Ann, do you want to give us a report on that?
Thank you. So what we're bringing forward to the board tonight is a supplemental retirement plan, as you mentioned. The goals of these plans are to incentivize long-term or senior employees to retire, those that are at the top of the salary schedule. And generally speaking, the attrition is about 3 to 4 times per the natural retirement with these kind of plans. Excuse me. The board will be approving a contingent plan perhaps tonight, and then there will be a 45-day window for employees to consider the offer. Interested employees will submit an irrevocable letter of resignation during that enrollment period. At the end of that enrollment period, which would be about April 15th, the district will do a calculation to see if there's a savings based on who chooses the retirement plan, and we'll report that back to the board. If the plan proceeds, the employees then resign, and their last day would be June 11th. Post-employment contributions are funded over a 5-year period for the district. So whatever the total cost of the plan will be paid to an insurance company, divided in 5. Each staff member who chooses this plan will have an individual meeting with folks from CARS that will help them choose the best options for them. They have multiple options of how they're paid over what period of time. It's an annuity, so it has a very good tax advantage for folks that you wouldn't have with a regular retirement plan. It's handled like a rollover of an IRA program. So what will happen in the plan that we're proposing is would be for employees who have 10 years of service with the district and are at least 50 years of age. Their full-time equivalent would be 1, or if they're a classified person, be 0.5 or higher. And their intent to retire would be need to be turned in by April 15th.
Does anybody have any questions about that?
I heard 10 years of service, age 50 or age 55?
It's 50 for classified and 55 for certificated. Thank you.
Got it. And this is a retirement plan or a resignation?
So the thing that's kind of interesting about this supplemental retirement plan is the person will be retiring from Temple City Unified, but you're not retiring from STRS or PERS. So if you wanted, you could retire from Temple City and you could go to another district and work, as long as you would like to. They're two separate things, so it doesn't impact your retirement with STRS or PERS. Thank you.
But somebody who did want to retire could do that if they wanted to.
Absolutely.
Would someone like to make a motion and then we can discuss it?
I would like to make the motion to approve the supplementary retirement plan.
Second.
Oh, at the 60th percentage, 60% of the current salary.
Okay, we have a motion by member Lynn and a second by, is that okay? Yeah, Espinosa? Okay, 60%. Okay, is there any discussion or questions about this?
And if we don't have enough people, we can,
Right.
or we can increase the percentage,
No. The plan you define tonight would be what it would be based on. After all the calculations are done, I'll come back and let you know if it helps, if there's a savings. And then if there isn't a savings, the board has the right to rescind the offer.
and savings will take place instantaneously.
I'm having trouble hearing that, sir.
Or the instantation,
I'm still having trouble. Can you put the microphone in front of me, please, Mr. Nolan? Thank you.
do we know when this savings, or if there is a savings, when it'll be effective?
So the calculations that I'll be bringing back to you are savings over 5 years.
I want to make sure that the 60% is the base salary of the employee and not anything additional, such as stipends.
It's 60% of your salary, annual salary.
Just want to
Thank
make
you.
sure that's clear.
Okay, is there any other questions or discussion? We'll take a vote on that. Samuel?
Yes.
Okay, and the rest of the board, if you're in approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Now we need to adopt a resolution for it. It's resolution 1920-15, Public Agency Retirement Services Supplementary Retirement Plan. Would like to make a motion? Motion by member Nolenberg,
Second.
second by member Lynn. Okay, is there any more questions or comments on this? Okay, we're going to do a roll call. Samuel?
Yes.
All right. Member Lynn?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Member Nolenberg?
Yes.
Member Smith?
Yes.
And Member Espinosa?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Next is to approve the appointment of members to the Citizens Oversight Committee.
So we have one member that's still on the Citizens Oversight Committee, and that's Dale Schaefer. He has another year on his term, so we needed to get 6 volunteers. We've advertised several times over the last couple of years because we've had a really hard time getting people to want to be on this committee. Several members have, if you can't get people, you can extend their time, and several people have volunteered to do it over and over. I'm very happy to say I twisted a couple of arms and got enough people, so we have 6 people that are willing to serve. But because we're at the end of the current bond projects, we'll only need to meet twice a year, so it's not a huge commitment for them at this time until we identify the next projects to do. You are required to meet once a year. I like to meet quarterly when we have active projects to keep everybody up to date. So the reason you have 6 people is because Dale Schaefer's still on the committee, but these are the folks that are willing to be on the committee for us. I need to meet with them before the end of March to go over the audit report that was presented to you in December. You get 2 audit reports, one for the district and one for Measure S. And so that's one thing I need to get done before the end of the month.
Someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion to approve the appointment? Okay, motion by Member Oldenburg. Second?
28, for item 28, right?
Yes, item 28.
Second.
Okay, second by Member Lynn. Are there questions?
I have some questions and a comment. Because I noticed that the many, just as you pointed out, that there were a few, not a lot, but a few people that continue to be on the same, the committee without any, like, I'm thinking, maybe a more diverse group with, new members. I mean, are we able to give nominations at this point, or it's not possible?
You absolutely could. My only concern would be the timeline we have to have that presentation and have the group vote. That would be my only concern. But by all means, we can have more members. This is sort of the minimum.
That's what I thought.
So if we wanted to, bring it back and reach out to more folks, that would be great for me to have more people on the committee.
Yeah, I just want to offer a couple of names because, I'm always looking for, fresh perspectives and, new community members that haven't had the opportunity to volunteer for things like this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would like to just suggest Dawn Duhamel and Dan Augustine as people that would be interested in.
I know how to get hold of Dawn. She's in my phone.
Right, I'll get you his contact.
It's Dan Augustine?
Dan Augustine.
And what I'll do is I'll invite them to this next meeting that we have.
Okay.
And what I'd like to do with the group is we're gonna go over the bylaws and sort of what the COC does, what their purview is and what is really the board's purview, just to get everyone familiar with that, and then we'll give them an update on where we are on the current projects.
Great, thank you so much.
Just to piggyback on that real quick, I think if we could get this information, like maybe a couple months in advance, and the application form, I know I'd be out there pounding the pavement to get people to apply for it.
I was doing that this the last 3 days.
Yeah, so if we can get it ahead of time, I think maybe we can avoid this last minute trying to add people on. Yes, okay, sorry.
I'd like to actually add a name to the list as well. Cindy Vance told me that she submitted the paperwork late. It was today.
She brought it to me last night, and I told her we would invite her to this meeting, and we can, like I said, we can add folks.
She's
just we've
currently
got to get that started.
on the panel. I have a couple more questions, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
It says here, no member may serve more than 3 consecutive terms. So when you tell us that you borrowed, whatever, a couple other people, does that mean they are under that 3-term limit?
Well, there's also language in, if you keep reading, and that it's not in this, and I should have added it, but if you can't get anybody, they can extend their terms. So it says you're limited to 3, but then if you can't get enough people, you can go further. It's hard to get people to be on this committee, but I'm really happy to have these other names. We'll get them ready for the next big project.
If we need to add that language, then it's
absolutely.
Does that mean, though, that now that we have additional nominations, that we would look at people that have already had 3 consecutive terms and say, let's give some folks a chance? Or would we just keep them on?
So I heard a couple different questions. I want to answer each of them. Was the first one if you were asking if someone's already been 3 consecutive?
Yeah, I'm saying now that we have more than the minimum of
Mhm.
7, if there's like 2 or 3 people that have already served 3 terms in a row,
Mhm.
do they end their term because now we have others to replace them, or do they stay on?
So they're currently not on the committee because I have enough people to fill it now. Most of them didn't want to do anymore. They were kind of tired. But they, by all means, they could be added to the committee if they wanted to apply.
No, I'm sorry.
Right now,
You
I'm
said
sorry.
sorry.
Take them off.
Take them
Oh,
off.
take them off.
Somebody on his
Like,
list
let's
that's
say-
already been there more than 3 times.
So the only person that would be on here would be Gina Aparicio.
What about?
Steve Tucker.
Steve's only been on 2 terms.
And then, so let's say Gina, for example.
Mm-hmm.
If now that we have more than 7,
Mhm.
would Gina, because she's already done 3, would we say, Gina, okay, we did our service, thank you for your service, we have, some new members, or does she just stay on?
She can stay on.
She can
She would
stay on.
probably be super happy not to stay on because she's one that I called and begged and cried and everything to stay on. But
Oh, okay, so you'll go check in with them and see if they still want to do it, or that we have more people?
absolutely.
Okay.
I think these folks will send the application out to them because that's a formal part of the process they have to fill out. It's a very short application.
And then there are specific criteria in terms of one member shall represent a parent or guardian of child and all this stuff. We know that matches up so that everybody who's being considered fits one of those categories. And
Based on the information I have, yes, but that's something I'll also go over with them at the first meeting to make sure we don't have 2 people in one, and we have everything covered.
I guess the only comment I would make is, right now, we're kind of finishing up. There's not gonna be a whole lot of work for them to do, but definitely when we start doing new projects, I'd like to, put a little more time and effort into this and make sure we get, the most qualified candidates out there.
And I appreciate the board help in finding people, so thank you very much.
Be happy to. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any more questions or discussion? Yes.
Is this gonna be brought back on when you match the names with the requirements?
So tonight you'd be approving the group that's listed here, and I'd be very happy to come back and report to you which option they're lining up with.
So
I guess.
Vote on these, so how do we handle the new people? No.
So I'll reach out to them. I'll reach out to them and get applications to them, and I can bring them back at the next board meeting if they have their paperwork in time, and if not, the one right after that. But I'll invite them to the meeting anyway, if I can have their contact information.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions?
And then if we can please include the language that says we can beg, borrow, or cry.
I was working the room at the Founder's Day, and I got 2 more people.
Okay, Samuel?
Yes.
Okay. For the rest of the board, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Okay, number 29 is discuss and approve reduction of facility use fees from Temple City National Little League. And I don't know if you wanted to, were you interested in speaking?
Yes, just
Okay.
briefly. Good evening, Michael Mendoza with Tcusd National Little League. Actually, more of a question than speaking. I just want to clarify the amount that's under consideration to be waived. And then also, we intend to submit an additional request for the high school. I would like that to be potentially waived in advance, if at all possible. But I'll leave that in your hands.
Okay. Do we have a copy of their application? Enough for everybody, no? I guess there's just one copy. Is it-
Mary, is that right?
Yeah, sure.
Do you want me to make copies?
So the application that we have in the office at this point is for March 9th through May 15th from 5 to 7 p.m. And there's a schedule of which days they would like to use it. And the total for the proposed days is $1,920.47. We adjust that if there's rain or they don't play or something, of course, we deduct those days. But that's based on the schedule that's been presented.
Okay, and what days of the week is that?
Monday through Friday.
Yeah, Monday through Friday.
And it's at Cloverly?
Yes, the Cloverly Field, March 9 to May 15.
How much is the total amount? 19 what?
1,920.47.
Okay.
And what makes up that total?
The portable restrooms that we have out there are $535.35, and then the field is $15.74 per hour, and it's 44 days.
Do we have anything for lighting or?
Pardon me?
Do we have anything for lighting?
There's no lighting at Cloverleaf.
No, but do we have to turn on light, provide lighting between 5 and 7 p.m.?
This starts after the time change, so it'll be light until
I know.
7.
But it's still,
Well, there's no lighting to turn on, so.
okay, so that's a major expense.
No, there's no lighting. They're gonna just use the sunlight.
Yeah, but they won't have sunlight after.
Ken, this is after the time
After
change?
the time change. They will have, it won't be dark until after 7. So they'll be fine. Okay, would someone like to make a motion? Okay, we have a motion to approve by member Espinosa.
What is it, what are we approving?
The reduction of facility use fees for Temple City National Little League.
How much we're reducing them by?
Could you clarify your motion, Melissa, please?
I'm just thinking about the previous motions we made for the other groups, and I wanted to be consistent with that, which was, I believe, waiving the fee.
Okay, so you waive the fee for Temple City National Little League
Yes.
for this application,
For what duration? Just for this
For-
year?
for this application.
For this
Just
application.
this season, right?
Right, because we got that other fee study going on, and,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by, okay. Now, is there just any discussion? Questions?
Quick question, the total amount, Maria, is what? $1,902.04?
$1,920.47.
147. Okay, and that's the amount we're waiving, right?
Mhm.
So I have a question about the portable restrooms. Are we requiring them to have them?
There were some issues with the restrooms a couple of years ago, and the site requested that they have a portable restroom rather than using the student restrooms.
So there's already portable restrooms out there?
We bring it in just for their period of use.
Oh,
So it's only for them.
Yes,
What was 500 some odd?
$535.35.
So we're gonna do a fee study, right?
Yes.
Oh, did you want to?
Yeah, if I can just add to that, I've heard of those issues in the past. One, I wasn't there when they happened. But I will say, last year, there's the after-school program, I believe, at least the times that I was actually practicing there. One kid used it, and we had 3 practices going on at the time. And one of the issues I did see that you should all be concerned with is those children out there that not a part of our program, part of the school, the after-school program, or sometimes, last year there was construction going on, it may be more visible this year, I understand that. Last year there was separate construction going on, it was kind of hidden a little bit in the corner, and the kids that were out there, not a part of our group, were in there, around there. It's something for you to consider where it's
Thank you.
placed if you utilize it, just.
Thank you very much.
So there's a potential custodial cost because the bathrooms will have to be unlocked. It may be used by TC and LL or potential trespassers that are not part of the National Little League. So in any case, there will be a additional custodial burden placed on our staff that I'm hearing.
Well, this portable toilet is what she's talking about, but isn't there an after-school program there also?
Yes.
Right, so there's already a custodian there for that after-school program.
There are not custodial fees charged on this application because of the portable, so there are no fees. And
But there is already a custodian there.
Yes.
And the restrooms are already open?
Some of them are open for the after-school program, and I'll circle back to the site administrator, who's the person that shared this information with me.
And then the use of the field is reseeding, wear and tear, letting the seats recover, letting the lawn recover.
Right, and that's based on the previous fee study for field use, and we'll have an updated fee when the new one is finished.
Honestly, I think the requirement to have portable restrooms is not appropriate, I guess. If there's restrooms there that are open, I mean, we could always ask for a deposit of $500 or something if it's found to be damaged or whatever. I know it's getting off track a little bit, but you've got restrooms there that are open and you're going to require they bring in portable restrooms. Just seems foolish.
I agree.
$1,000 off of the cost.
500.
500.
Well, there's two of them.
I'm just saying.
Two restrooms, one restroom.
My understanding is that we're waiving costs, so there will be no cost.
So the motion is to waive the cost for this year until we get the fee study done, right?
And I guess the suggestion would be to look at allowing them to use the regular restrooms and not bring a portable toilet in, and maybe charging them a deposit, a refundable deposit, that if there's no problems with the restroom, they get their money back. Something like that. I used to do that in Doherty too, so it worked fine.
I'd like to just add one more comment.
Sure.
Staff did exactly what they're supposed to do when they required that forms be filled out and priced and out and everything. They're just working off the board policy that exists. Now, most of us didn't vote for that, and I know I personally don't agree, but staff did exactly what they're supposed to. And I know it's awkward that we've kind of come to this where we're waiving fees off the top of our head and we're getting new pricing schedules. I hope it's all resolved nicely, and I don't think we would have gotten to this point had the situation occurred the way it did, but this is no fault of staff's at all. I want to make sure everybody knows that. They just did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll take a vote then. Samuel?
Yes.
Okay, and the rest of the board, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion, I'm sorry. You oppose, so motion is approved 4-1. Okay, we'll move on to item 30. I'm just wondering, we have 10 minutes left and we still have, I think, 10 more items to go. So, well, okay, I know, but all right, well, how long are you gonna be?
Really quick.
Okay, we'll see how it goes then, but keep that in mind. We only have 10 minutes left, or less.
Okay,
So, this is approved school plans for student achievement for all schools.
These are our school site student achievement plans. Any school that receives state or federal funding through the consolidated app and reporting system from the state, we have to develop a plan and articulate where those funds are going, specifically with funds related to Title I, Title II, Title III. Those would be our students, or would be your low-income students or students and whatnot. What's been presented in front of you is just the restricted category monies and local control funding formula supplemental. It's they all are in alignment as outlined in SIPSA's total of $683,988.
Is that budgeted?
That is correct. It's a formula that's given to us by the state based on the student population. It's aligned with CalPATS. We're currently working on the new revision coming out this June. Very specific state requirements and where those dollars can be spent.
Just real quick, I know we're running out of time. So to what extent are the SIPSAs aligned to the LCAP? And also the recommendations insurances page, only Cloverly has it, but no signatures from the school site councils.
Can I don't have my digital copy. Can I get a copy of the number, the hard copies? I'm sorry. I could not find it.
Actually, there were multiple plans in here that had discrepancies about who was signing them, or they weren't signed at all.
So to save work in parallel right now because the clock is ticking. So my first question about the extent to which the SIPSAs are aligned to LCAP. The reason I ask is, part of the superintendent's evaluation is LCAP. And the SIPSAs are just the school plans. And I know, Monica, you work on the LCAP.
Yes.
And then Josh, you kind of report out on the SIPSAs. So really, that alignment, that's really the question. How aligned are those school plans with the district plans?
I think one of the first things we did 2 years ago was take a hard look at the SIPSAs and do training on them to make sure they were aligned with the LCAP goals of basic services, of focusing our funds on EL, special ed, foster youth, and taking a look at CTE pathways for the high school. So I know the team did the training 2 years ago. They repeated it again this year. From a newcomer, relatively, it's my second year here, our plans are more aligned than ever to the LCAP. So I know the teams and Ed Services have worked really hard to get these plans in early and review them. I believe not all of them are signed because these are copies downloaded from DocuTrack. They are not the ones that we will get the final copies from the school site councils, but I think when the copies were made from the binders, and correct me if I'm wrong, they were just straight from DocuTrack, which lets you do a print batch.
Did you have something you wanted to say? You have that look on your face. Okay. All right, would someone like to make a motion then?
I'll make a motion to approve the SIPSAs for all schools.
We have a motion by member Lynn.
I'll second it.
Second by member Smith. Okay, any more questions or comments? Okay, Samuel?
Yes.
And the rest of the board, please signify approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. I think just to be safe, maybe we should do a little extension.
Move to extend the meeting till 10:15 if we need it.
Okay, we have a motion by member Smith to extend it till 10:15, no later than 10:15. We have a second? Second by member Lynn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. All right, now we'll move on to the consent calendar. These are routine items approved by one motion and one vote unless a member or of the board or audience requests that any item be reviewed and voted upon separately.
Move to approve, but I do have one amendment when we get there.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve by member Smith,
Second.
second by member Lynn. Okay, what is,
I just noted in the minutes from the last meeting, we talked about renaming the baseball stadium at the high school, but nowhere in the minutes does it say Dennis Marquardt.
oh, it doesn't have his name?
No, so I think we should add that just as a matter of record.
Okay, good idea.
And can I also ask for some discussion on number 32? So on the contracts, page 1, contract for Caldwell Flores Winters Inc., it just says the amount is to be determined, and it relates to full-day kinder. So I'm just curious to know, I know we have not necessarily voted on to approve full-day kinder. We've talked about the grant, but I just wanted to know what this is and why it would be TBD.
So you may recall that the board gave permission or approval to go forward for the grant.
Yes.
So this is the firm that helps put the grant together.
Okay.
And until we find out if we get the grant or don't get the grant and the amount of it, we can't determine what exactly the fees will be.
Okay, got it, thank you. And then on the POs, line 34 and 36, the numbers, the values are about the same, 106,000 something. One is from TCHS for a Ray Jones and Broadway typewriter, and then the other one is for CDW Government Inc. Help me understand what those might be about, or what those are. Are they related?
So absolutely, I can understand why that would be a little bit confusing. So you may or may not be aware, but there are issues getting computer parts and computers out of China. So we placed an order for computers that were needed for the sites, and there was an issue with actually getting them here with the coronavirus. A lot of things are being stopped before it leaves China, or they're being held here in our ports. So we had a guarantee from one vendor, oh, absolutely, you'll have it next week, when we needed it for testing. And then like, oops, really, we don't know when it's coming. So we placed an order with someone else to try and get them here in time for what the students need.
Those orders are still active?
Yes. And then we will cancel.
Oh, when the November.
Exactly.
First one here wins.
That's right.
Okay, that helps me, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries 5-0. Now we're on to board comments. Does anybody have any comments they want to make? Yes, Ken.
I'd just like to have a kind of like a summary of stipends, how much we've given out in stipends and how the committee and the committee members and the committee itself and who establishes, who gets the stipends besides the principal of the school. And I also would like to see all of the money we've spent, in a sense. I'd like to see how much of the reserves we're using, we've already done. So in a sense that we're doing what the city did. And that's they took the reserves and they allotted it to different things, different functions that they were planning on doing. And I'd just like to see what that is, and whether we can hear it.
You'll see that at the second interim presentation.
I would like to revisit at some point the presentation that the robotics team made about their funding and, whether they can get an advisor, just an update on that, please.
I would like to acknowledge the organizations that donated to.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So are we just doing comments right now, or is this future agenda item request too?
Actually, this is board comments. Okay, if nothing else, then we'll move on to, yes.
I'd like to see whether it's worthwhile to have a class just in training students and adults, or adults, doesn't make any difference, about the difference between what the truth is and what the lie is. Because there's so much misinformation out there. I'd just like to see us try to get to what is true and what is false.
Okay, anything else? We'll move on to future agenda items. Yeah, okay, that's okay. Anybody have any? Yes.
I would like to see our technology plan. I would like to know where we are today and where we hope to be in 6 months, a year, whatever. If there's I assume there's a technology committee, who's on the committee specifically, names and that kind of thing. And I hate to be a real pickle on this, but the sooner the better.
Anything else? Did you have anything, Sam?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to item 40, which is an additional public comment on agendized and non-agendized items. Did anybody want to say anything, Jerry?
Senator Rubio will be at Longview School on March the 6th in the morning for a reading across America.
We all received an email inviting us there.
For flag raising, is that?
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Jerry.
Yes.
Anything else, anyone? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 10:01.
You got it.
Okay, so motion by member Smith, second by member Lynn, all in favor? Meeting is adjourned, we'll see you tomorrow.